All right. Well, are we okay? Well, is this another where we lose another one to Valorant? Like, Tarek's not quitting because he missed that spray, is he? Right? Like that would pains me. Do we
That is
think
gonna be if this happens, that is gonna be his potentially last
the
EG
guy
game.
won a major as the in-game leader? Like, we can't remember him for that.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Fist bumps go to the teammates.
I wanna see you falling fast. Win the round. Win the game.
Parry Match, your esports teammate.
We are live with HLTV Confirmed, episode 35 of season 5. We're just discussing the episodes and the seasons, and it doesn't make sense. So at some point we'll end it and we'll start a new one. But it's all a bit of fun. It's just a numbering system, and I don't know. I like numbers. But anyway, we're going to talk about a couple things before we get this one underway. I want to mention the date. It is Monday, the 12th of April, 2021. And we are kicking off another show here. Now, first and foremost, we are brought to you by Xtrfy and Parry Match. They're the sponsors of the show. So thank you very much for making this possible. And yeah, let's get this one underway. Lucas, you're back in the chair. This one's actually gone very smoothly, getting everybody in. There hasn't been any tech issues. Are we feeling good tonight?
I'm hoping everything doesn't break.
Okay, enthusiastic as always. So that's fantastic. We're kicking it off in the right way. Now, normally...
It's the confidence you want to hear, right?
Yeah, from your producer is meant to make sure there's no tech issues. But anyway... Striker, normally we do the whole like dating situation. I've run out of ideas, so I might need to pivot and come up with a new content scheme for you, because no one in chat has come up with the... I thought someone might make you a dating profile on Tinder and they could see what matches they get and they could send them in, and that would be going really deep. Prof, you got any suggestions what we could do for Striker here?
Do you want like a question?
Yeah, give him a question.
Did we ask like what is his ideal like vacation place?
I think I asked like beach or mountains or something along those lines at some point.
Where do you take your vacation? Let's say let's say this summer. Where would you go?
Literally Croatia, same as always, kind of.
So
getting pretty exotic.
I'm literally his perfect date. Okay, let's go.
Exactly.
Well, all right, that one's easy. Striker, we'll have to work on something new, mate. Do you have anything that you want to put out into the world?
I wanted you to ask me something and I forgot what it was. So it's it's got out of my mind.
If it comes to you, send it to me for next week and we'll get it started there. Prof, we're normally doing Corona Watch with you. Once again, not a lot happening, right?
Do you want like a fun Corona fact? In Croatia, only 30 to 35% of nurses have taken the Corona vaccine, even though all of them were offered. And that's interesting because like you would expect them to be the first ones because they're like frontline worker, right?
Yeah.
But then I was told it was like about pregnancies and stuff like that because you're not sure how that's going to affect it long term.
Sure.
And that's just like a fun little fact, I think.
Okay. Without any real context on this situation, we might leave that one. Okay, so on tonight's show, we have a lot to cover here. Now, I should have done this earlier, but anyway, I'll quickly do it right now. We've got recent news, which is in talking about all these new roster moves for EG Vitality, flusha's new team going on here, OG, NAVI with some news as well, a Pro League check-in for the finals, a Blast Showdown preview, and in the hot seat, we have MSL. Now, let's play the bumper so we can introduce MSL. Get it going, Lucas. Well, here it is. It is MSL in the bloody hot seat tonight. And mate, thank you for putting up with all of our nonsense just there. It normally only takes a couple minutes. So we've got that out of the way. Now we can sink our teeth into basically what's been going on with you. And I want to jump straight in because I'm sure there's plenty of stuff to talk about tonight for you, and especially with these roster changes. I want to grab your opinions on those too. But let's kick off with, I guess, where we last left the North saga. We had Graham, Mr. Messioso Pitt on the show. And yeah, basically, at one point, you and AZ were transfer listed because the team was starting to go into a direction with nurturing younger talent. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Messioso was talking about wanting to go in that direction, was asking the players in the team who wanted to hang around for that kind of a venture. Is that about right?
Yeah, something along those lines. I think I didn't get asked, but to say the story, it was that when I joined, the goal was top 5, and obviously that needed you needed to change some players to do that, and then COVID hit, and FC Copenhagen and the other investor really got hit by that because they're in the entertainment business. So yeah, they had to go a different route with money, and it was not really possible to invest so much into it, I think. And yeah, that's the short story, at least.
Did you see the writing on the wall when that shift happened? When it was like, okay, they're going to go down this route of getting younger players and trying to develop talent. Did that to you seem like there was trouble financially, or when North all shut down, did that still come as a surprise?
It didn't come as a surprise. I had a lot of talks. I was pretty close with the sports psychologist and Jumpy as well. We had talks during the time because they knew what I expected, and they also expected that, but it couldn't happen. So even in the summer, they asked me do I still want to go? We had plans of changing some players in the summer, but we couldn't. And they asked me if I still wanted to do it and if I was here after the summer, and I still wanted to be there because I felt like both Jumpy and the sports psychologist trusted in me, and I felt like a lot of belief, and yeah, and that's why I kept going. In the end, they knew that I also told them that in the next player break there need to happen something, and obviously they found out that they couldn't deliver that, and that's why they took the decision they did. It was nothing no bad feelings or anything. I respect the guys a lot. We took it, really good together.
Sure. I think maybe if we pivot to the time with that stint with you in North, and wanting to be like a top 5 team, or wanting to be one of the obviously best teams in the world, what were the biggest things do you think holding you guys back? Do you think it was just being in that online era and just how fucked up everything is with all these different results that we're seeing? It's just a harder ball game out there.
I wouldn't excuse the online era at all for that. I just don't think that we had a strong enough lineup to do it. And yeah, it was pretty apparent for me that it was like this. And already before I came, I knew that some changes needed to happen in order for us to reach that goal. But in the end, we couldn't do it. I wanted to come back to North to, when I got kicked it was after a high and a low, and I wanted to come back and show I will get North back, which I think is kind of the same way karrigan feels now. So it was pretty sad for me that I couldn't realize it. And obviously, I think I also did some mistakes, and I could have probably gotten more out of the team that we had, but in the end, it just didn't work out. And I think I felt like we kind of played not first of all, Kjærby got the mental stuff in April, 2 or 3 months after I joined, and then we had to play with Christo for 2 or 3 months as a stand-in. He was an Auber, but he went in as a rifle. It was all a mess, I feel like. So yeah, it was just a tough time, both mentally and motivation-wise for everyone. Then after the summer, I felt like we really gave it a shot when Lekro came. I feel like everyone worked super hard, especially Gate and Cajun really put in a lot of work. And yeah, we also had an insane bootcamp where we played some of the best CS I have ever played on a team, but it just didn't translate in official. And it felt like after that bootcamp, we put in a lot of work, but then it kind of like the motivation got lower and lower, and it felt like some weird way that every loss you had in North was just like 10 times stronger, like also for players. And in some weird way, I also felt like we were not a team, but mostly like individuals trying to get as good stats so you didn't get kicked. Like it was like in a bad way. And obviously I also take some of the responsibility for that, because I'm the leader and I need to change stuff like that faster. But I just didn't. And it's also some of the things that I will focus a lot on my next team, is to make my team feel like a team, and create team spirit. And because in the end, like if you don't make your teammates succeed, you will not succeed yourself. And I think it's an important lesson.
Sure. Do you think that is like the case with just having groups of people together or mixed together without finding like huge amounts of success in any field, right? Like when I'm talking about this, what I mean is like I'll reference my career, right? When I knew that like my teammates didn't believe in my calling, or I felt like my calling was shit, like the whole thing just felt fucked, right? Like the vibe was completely off. Is that the same kind of thing as what you're talking about here, in the sense of like it didn't have that necessary harmony of the team? Everybody was just kind of, you know, doing not their own thing, but like not the right vibe is I'm a fucking boomer.
Yeah,
I understand vibe, but yeah.
I understand what you mean, but it was not the case in that way. I felt like everyone trusted what I was doing and what I was coming up with. And we also, like, through the time, we went from a lot structured to more like structured, and also with a lot of gimmick plays and so on. So I feel like we really came together tactically, and everyone knew what they were doing. We had a deep playbook. We had everything written down. Like, you felt secure in that way. Also in our preparation, how we did things, it was just mostly like, I didn't feel like that someone would go and die for me to get the kill, you know? And I feel like that has been a big problem in my team since I've become an AWPer, is that, like, I always died for my teammates back when I was rifle too. Like, if I knew that we would get the side because of this, I would do it like 10 out of 10 times. And I didn't get the same feeling with this team. And it's
Rob, I cut you off before. Did you have a follow-up with this?
I mean, I just wanted to like make an observation more. Like, I feel like that what MSL was talking about, like people trying to play for stats more than for the success of the team, is something that happens a lot in these, like, I don't know, like top 25 to 35, 40 teams in the world, or like the third best team in any country, right? Because most of these people are trying to make it out of the team more than trying to make it with the team, right? They just want to put themselves,
the next option.
they want the spotlight so they can get into a better situation, because obviously it's hard to, whatever North you have, it's always hard to see like them being better than Astralis. And then that's kind of the thinking that I feel like is very hard to overcome, unless you really have people that are on the same wavelength, like completely.
And maintaining the job, right?
Yeah.
But I will also say, like, now it sounds extreme, like we didn't want it, but it's mostly just about the team spirit and the feeling of wanting to die for each other.
Sure.
Basically.
Yeah. The camaraderie, right?
Yeah. And I'm not blaming it on one player or another, because it's all our fault. Like, if we don't want each other to succeed, or we don't want to create this team spirit, it's everyone's fault in the last.
Did you also feel like maybe there wasn't enough modern innovation in the team, just because obviously you rejoined like a lot of your old teammates in that team when you came back into Northern, and a lot of the players that you obviously knew from the past? So was that difficult to do, or did like you switching towards the AWPing like provide enough of a new thing that you could just like shape the playstyle a little bit differently, I guess?
We changed a lot up, like both with, I think we were actually very innovative with, we had Lekro coming in with some new ideas. We had like Jumpy had a lot of ideas as well. Cajun and Gate also came with ideas. So I actually felt like we had a lot of ideas and we had a really, really big playbook. And I felt like we were really good tactically. Of course, I felt that because I'm the in-game leader, but I really felt like there was 2 times where I felt like we got owned tactically and prepare-wise that 10 months I was there. And that was against Heroic in official on Vertigo and against Astralis in a best of 3 as well. So I just felt like we wasn't good enough individually, and what I said before, like team spirit wise, wanting, like if you have a weaker team individually, then you really need to fucking
Sure.
be so good together team spirit wise, and yeah.
Okay. We might pivot from here to just talk about some of those teammates right now. It's Kirby, AZ, Gade with Professeur, and I'm blanking on the fifth. I'm a horrible person. The fifth of that squad is who's good? Anyone help me
Bob.
out with this one?
Bob.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the boys that you played with, they're going to that roster, and I know this is a difficult thing to do if you're still friends with the guys. But do you think that is going to be a successful team? And do you think it's going to be easy for that kind of a team to find an org?
I think it's gonna be hard, like with an org, because there's a lot of teams out there wanting an org or players that want to create something. But I think like I have always I think Kirby and Icy is 2 of the best players, or they are really, really good players. And I believe that if they put in the work and they get motivated, which I think is possible now, because one of the things you can't underestimate is when you get kicked or you get out of a team and you don't really feel like somebody wants you, like it's kind of same position I'm in now, is that maybe you will give more, like they have sit in North and got a good salary. They didn't feel bad. They didn't feel like out of comfort zone. So I hope for them that that has like made them feel bigger motivation and so on. And I think if they really show the hunger and put in the work, then they can do it. Like Icy for me is like, I have a deep love for Icy in game because he is so talented. Like I always said, if you put Icy talent and my work ethic, you would have like one of the best players in the world. And I still believe that. So I hope they will figure it out. And like we have had a lot of good moments, a lot of bad moments. And yeah, in the end, I hope the best for them, because Icy and Kirby was like 2 players I kind of grew up with them, and it was the 2 players that in Dignitas we had this team spirit, like we had a great friendship and everything. And yeah, the past years have been rough with the results, and it has probably also done something on the friendship part, but that's how it is. And yeah, I wish them the best.
Okay. We'll quickly just talk about, I suppose, Lekro, and then we'll start talking about what you've been up to, right? Lekro there temporarily, and now he's over at Dignitas. Did you expect him, from your time with him, to be a player who's performing like I know Dignitas are not, we're not saying that they're world beaters right now, but he's gone and found a home there and is performing. Did you think that he was capable of that?
Yeah, I think so. Like obviously he has a like Swedish and Danish CS is very different, I would say, but individually you could see that he had the star potential, and like there was rounds where you were sitting like, what the fuck happened there? And so I knew that he had the potential, and I'm happy for him that he found his home in Dignitas. I think he's pretty happy with that, to be back with those guys as well.
Okay. All right, now let's kind of give the viewers at home a little bit of an understanding of maybe at least the way that I view your current situation, and then you can talk us through what it's like for your position, because there's a lot of players right now who are in a similar position to you, right? So I would say maybe even the last 12 months, there's been a lot of players becoming free agents, right? Or maybe not even free agents, just either benched or on transfer lists or on all of these positions where you're kind of in limbo and looking for new rosters. There's obviously lots of strong teams in Denmark already. We've seen you do international in-game leading stuff before over there with Rogue. So right now you're kind of finding yourself in the breeze a bit. And I've seen you tweeting about, streaming some Faceit games and doing that right now to give you something to compete in a way, right? So can you kind of speak to what it feels like now to find yourself in a position where, you know, you can't really stake that flag and be like, yeah, I have a project, I have a goal. How are you kind of keeping yourself busy and focused and preparing for what's next?
Yeah, it's pretty hard, but for me, I focus on the daily rhythm and what I'm doing every day instead of focus on the big picture. Because if I begin to think about that, then I go full emo. So, like, I'm focusing a lot. Like in game wise, I'm playing a lot of Face It. I'm surfing and playing KC to improve my movement. And I also begin to stream to, like, it's not to earn money or anything. It's mostly to show people who I am, because I think some people think I'm arrogant and idiot, but I want to show who I am, because I don't think that's the case. And so that's the in-game part. Like out-game, I have focused a lot on exercising and eating more healthy. So
Like with your career though, like obviously doing all these things to just keep up the individual level, or you know, maybe fine tune some things that you saw as weaknesses in your game before. Like, is this now like the time that you have reflecting on your career or you as an individual? Is it something that you feel is beneficial to you going forward, or do you feel like you're already ready to kind of get back into a team? And do you have somebody like representing you to help you look for a team, or are you in conversations with anybody at the moment?
I feel like I'm ready to join a team now. I would very much like that. I mean, in the beginning of the year, just when I got out of North, I had some offers, also very good offers money-wise, but I didn't feel like the lineup was strong enough, so I chose to wait, which is risky, but I did it because I don't really feel like I don't need to like hurry or something. And obviously I want to play, but I want the right project, and I took a risk. We will see if it pays off. But the latest I will go into action is like the next player break. No matter what, I will take the best offer there, because at that point, like, I don't think you should be out for more than like 7 or 8 months. Then it's getting too much.
Okay. Now, Professeur, you got any follow-ups on this kind of questioning?
Let Striker go first if he has anything.
Not can't think of anything right now. Not into this.
Yeah, but just like about being on the sidelines, how does it work today in terms of like talking with people, getting trials, stuff like that? Is it still as it used to be, I guess, like, or is it more handled through like agents and stuff like that in terms of like offers and talking with potential teams?
I think some players have agents and some don't. I don't have an agent, so it has mostly been, I have been talking with the coach and then one of the owners from the CEO, usually. The times I have talked with them, yeah.
I guess with this, right, with the idea of, you know, talking and finding and fielding all this, what options are you open to? Is it literally anything? Like, you want to go do the international thing again? Do you want to do something a bit more Nordic? Like, what are the preferences? If MSL gets to choose, what are you choosing?
I don't really have a preference in terms of like what nationality. I just want players that are very hungry and yeah, as good as a lineup as possible. But at this point, I'm also like, even back then when I just won Stockholm and then I got kicked after the major, I even joined Rogue, you know. So it's not like I'm not afraid of taking something smaller and putting in the work there. So yeah.
What
Striking.
about
Yeah.
what about doing like the route that we just saw Sunny and flusha take? You know, just put something together on your own, you know, out of the talent that is available. Have you thought about it, or do you think it's just too difficult to find an organization right now?
I looked into it and I also had some talks with some people, but in the end, I felt like we couldn't scrape together something good enough. And I also think like there's not enough orcs right now to, like, it's so hard to get an orc. So I think like if an orc comes, I think it's way easier, because then maybe you also have some money to buy out some players and so on. So yeah, I'm open for it if an organization comes.
Okay. So open to end. Well, I guess right now you said a couple more months after that player break. So this is interesting because it's you're finding yourself in a place where, and I suppose this is something that a lot of people have found themselves in the time with COVID in a way, right? Being at home, not being able to go into the office for a lot of people doing, regular office jobs. For you not having to or not needing to compete, has it kind of helped not open your mind, but I know the more Counter-Strike I watch, obviously the more ideas I get when, and you're watching probably a lot more Counter-Strike now, and you're not playing with the same tools that you have been mishmashed over the years. Are you finding that you're coming up with new ideas in the way that you want to lead, or like do you see like gaps in the current way teams are approaching the game and stuff? Is that something that's a focus at the moment?
I'm not focusing too much on that because I feel like if I'm watching too many games, then I just want to play. Like when I see a game, I just want to go in that game and like fix that, and I'm going crazy if I do that. But I'm looking some games, but mostly I'm focusing on my individual level because tactically I feel like I'm still on a very high level, and I think a lot of teams are on a high level. Like if you see teams today, like everyone is copying things like this, like, and everyone is kind of running the same stuff just in a bit different way. So yeah, I think one of the things I will focus a lot on in the future is I want to play more aggressive as CT, and I also want to be more focused on creating my own new stuff and use it at the right time, because right now if you use a good thing in a group stage or something like that, it will be used next time, or like also just in practice. Like I remember like how many times we used stuff in practice and then we would see it like 2 days later against some team. So I think keeping the good stuff more to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. What about your approach to AWPing? Obviously, like the last time we saw you, you were the AWPer. Previously, you haven't been really. So, what's the preference now? Are you kind of like set on being this like combo in-game leader and AWPer, or are you just still open to like fulfilling whatever role is necessary for the team that like you accept essentially?
Yeah, I'm open to both. I would say that it depends really on the team that contact me what role I want to play, because I feel like individually I can obviously give more as an AWPer. So if I would join a smaller team, I would probably prefer to AWP unless they have a really strong AWPer. But else, let's say I should join Mouse, then I would obviously go rifling and just go more like the way that I did before, setting up my star players. And this is also, it's how I want in the future.
All right, so pretty malleable. I think what we'll do here is we're going to probably pivot over and start getting into the recent news, because I want to start picking your brain about the current meta and all the teams towards the top. Boys, you got any more questions here? We were saving for playtime.
I have just like one question. Probably not going to get much out of this, but still, North are kind of invited into the next RMR event, even though North disbanded, obviously. But two of the players are in this like ex-North project, Hyenas. I think it's Gade and AZ. And if you join up with them, they would get the spot in the RMR event. So is there a chance that happens, right?
I think like Graham wrote to me that I should take 100,000 Danish krones just to give them the spot, but they haven't asked me or anything. I'm not like they could take me in and then they could put me as coach or something, right? Or change me out instantly.
I'm not sure how it works now, actually, but maybe.
I don't know.
So this is what Graham said, that I should take 100k because we're getting sticker money. Then they can give me a bit. But I don't know. They didn't ask. I didn't really think about it.
The Dead Fox trick. Is that what we're gonna let? Is that what Hellraisers did that, right? I'm not. Yeah.
Golden also.
There was also the golden one. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so we've had a couple of.
It wasn't the same major, so it's just like.
Was that the last? Which major was that?
Was that Face It or not?
I don't know.
Was that Katowice?
First it was Hellraisers.
I think it was Katowice. First of 2019. Yeah.
Okay. Fuck. Last major 2019. Jesus. All right. Let's pivot into the recent news, Lucas. Play the bumper.
The Xtrfy M42 RGB, what a fun mouse with 5 colorways, lightweight frame at just 59 grams with a swappable backplate to suit your grip style, the sensor, the easy core, the smooth skates and driverless control for RGB and DPI is why you should check out the M42 RGB down below.
Fist bumps go to the teammates.
Match, your esports teammate.
All right, well, it's a bumper news day, apparently. Monday, the 12th of April, it just apparently all kicked off today. Now, that's because I suppose Pro League finished yesterday and we've got the Showdown for Blast starting tomorrow. So teams trying to get changes or news or whatever in before all that goes on down. But we got lots to talk about. And Prof, you were saying you had a bloody busy day, mate. Uh-oh. We've lost
I
Prof.
muted myself for
There
1
he is. He's
second.
back.
You had to throw
Sorry,
it in.
man.
I had to retweet something very fast. So I didn't want like the keyboards to.
What did
to-
you mute me? Because otherwise I don't have
No.
to repeat myself.
No,
All right.
I heard everything. Yeah, it was a busy day. We were talking about MICHU, the report that he's going to EG, not OG. The OG thing is in the past. Just one letter changed. Now he has a new team. Amazing. Obviously, the Vitality move. I think that's like super breaking news with our RPK and the guy that obviously no one knows except the French scene.
Yep.
Coming in, and then also the flusha team coming up. Those are the 3 big news. Then we also have this everything about the Blast Showdown coming on, which is going to be a separate part of the show. But still, yeah, a lot of things happening right now.
Okay, so let's start with the Sunny flusha team up. Now, this was rumored for a little while, and then it was hot, it was cold, it was hot, it was cold. We heard from flusha, probably not going to happen anymore, and then it still managed to happen. But the interesting thing with this team is, I'll read the lineup out for everybody at home: Sunny, flusha, then Sergey. Now, Sergey I thought was over in the army, even a picture with him with a shovel in front of his dick. So we know that he went over there and had a good time. We got Esperanto and we got Calix. Now, Calix is there as like this says trial. Am I reading this correct? Okay, Striker, what's going on there?
Well, they apparently, well, not apparently. I just know that they had a 5-man lineup already, but to the 5th player basically just like pulled out at the last minute, like in the last couple of weeks or so, and so they have to find a new player.
Okay.
And I guess like the latest is that they're trying out Calix and seeing if it works or not.
Okay, now hearing this roster, MSL, you flusha, Sunny, Sergey, Esperanto, Calix. We know that flusha wants to in-game lead, right? But there's still a couple of roles to fill in this team, right? So who do you think is going to AWP out of that bunch?
I can answer that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean I know what it is. It's going to be Sergey. I can say that. I'm pretty
Sergey's
sure.
going to AWP.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
Did he even second AWP in NC? Didn't, did he?
I mean, he picked it up every now and again, from what I remember, but not like super consistently. You're right.
Yeah, that's the AUG era as well. So
That's
I
true.
don't think double op was super popular. But I know that before he went like into the pro scene, he was like AWPing before Havu and all of that, when he was kind of a 16-year-old wonder kid in Finland.
Okay.
He had the proficiency to AWP in some teams, but that's a completely different ball game, right? So.
All right, well, let's try it this way then, MSL. Looking at that roster, those 5, do you think this is a team that can work? Like, are these players that you were talking to when trying to assemble a team, or players that you've considered at any point? And even if not, like, is this a roster that you think we've got a lot of international rosters right now? Is this one that can actually have some legs to it?
I'm not sure. Like I think that all the players are pretty good players individually. I think it takes a lot of time. I'm not sure how much, like we haven't seen flusha in-game lead so much. So I think it will also take a lot for him to create this team, because I remember like talking with Valde about OG and how long it took for them to like get into the same like mentality, because you come from different countries, you have different ways to play the game. So I think it will take time to get where they want to be, because I think these players all have pretty big ambitions. I would also say it's a team with a lot of egos, like from what I have seen in interviews and so on. So I think it's a team that can also clash pretty high, where you really need a leader to get them together. And
I agree.
I don't know how much. Like, I think flusha is probably one of the smartest CS players, but I don't know how much of a leader he is. And I think that maybe could be one of the problems that they will face.
None of those names, Prof, really stand out, right, as the traditional leader type, right?
Yeah, like the leader of men type.
Yeah.
That's something that they can maybe fix, like with a coach potentially. Like maybe that's the aspect that they're missing, because I think, was it Snappy that we had on the show? We were talking about Esperanto, and he said that was it him or someone else? Doesn't matter.
I think so.
But he said like that's a great talent that needs someone to like push him in the right direction, and that's essentially what I heard also from the crazy days. Like he literally needs someone to be on his case to like make sure he's in like his mind is in the right place and that he's working properly and everything. Then you have like flusha, as MSL said, like super smart. Don't see him like someone that's going to be like holding your hand and teaching you how to DM or teaching you out smokes and stuff like that. It's like you should probably know that. If you don't know that, what the hell are you trying to do with me and this team? Like 3-time major winner and major MVP, right?
Yeah.
That's the feeling that I have with this team. Feels like something that could literally fall apart in 1 week, but
Yeah.
but potentially be really good.
Yeah, and I'm always really skeptical, or it's hard to get invested when you see these names come together, right? Because yeah, the experience is there for every single one of those names have had at least the experience playing Counter-Strike at not maybe the highest of highs, but definitely within the upper echelons of Counter-Strike. All European names, right? We're not adding any unknown curveballs from Australia or America in the mix or anything like that. But the most interesting thing here to me is Striker, and we were talking about this with MSL before about how scarce it seems like it is right now to get an org. Apparently, they have an org supporting them. It's going to be announced in the near future. Do you got anything in your speculation hat for that one? Do you think it's an org we know, or do you think it's going to be a new org?
It's a completely new org. It's even said in the announcement that that it's a completely new org. So it's just somebody we haven't even seen before. I don't even know if it has some people that like the scene even knows about. So I'm not super sure about. I don't even know who it is. I'm just saying that from what I know that it's just a new bunch of people coming into the space who have like some experience from esports, but not like a whole lot that we would know who they are. I think.
Okay.
At least that's what I heard.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens with this roster. We got to wait till they play a match. We got to wait till they announce an org. Yeah.
Just to give my 5 cents, I feel like there's a lot of question marks about this, just because flusha is one, yes. Like Sergey AWPing, that's another. That's I think a really big question mark, just because we haven't seen him do it before. With flusha, at least there is some track record of him in game leading, and I know that Cloud9 were super happy with how he was doing it, and it just turned out that he couldn't stay. So that had nothing to do with his ability as an in-game leader, right? So that kind of makes me at least a little bit optimistic. And then we assume kind of like that Sunny and Esperanto are kind of clashing in terms of roles. So Sunny's probably gonna have to move into something a little bit different for himself, just because he's like done so many different roles under ENCE as well. And so like all of these things together definitely point to that it's going to take a lot of time for them to pull it off. And I think like the organization is something that I feel like is going to be important in this, just because is it going to be an organization that actually gives them a lot of support in terms of all the background stuff that you kind of need nowadays to like accelerate the process of improvement and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be the big key factor that's maybe going to make or break this team.
Sure. There's going to be a lot of that grinding, right? And these players have all kind of experienced success. So if that grinding becomes too much and they don't have that support you're talking about, maybe it doesn't last very long. But let's wait and see. We'll move this one forward because we've got plenty to talk about here in the recent news. This one kind of took everybody by a bit of surprise today. Now, we had Apex on the show recently, in-game leader of Vitality. He was singing the praises when we asked about Shocks and RPK, singing the praises of the older boys there, and had a lot of great things to say. Now, today it's come out that they've benched old boy RPK. He's gone. He's no longer a part of the team. His last event will be the Showdown, which is starting tomorrow. And then after that, they're going to be bringing in, I'm going to butcher the kid's name. Kyojin? Is that what we're going with? That sounds pretty good. Yeah. Now, he's not even that young, not like a Masuta or a Zaiwu or, one of these Sergeys who are, still a teen. This kid's 22. And it appears to be another one of these moves which Xtaz, the coach, he's the one that gets to decide and make this decision. Now, when you see this and you consider that Nevera was still on that bench, they've only recently just moved away from that 6-man roster. Does this feel like it's happened all very quickly, Prof, or do you think it makes sense?
Seems like the RPK move was inevitable at some point, right? We didn't see RPK going on in Vitality for 3 more years. I don't think anyone would say in 2025, 2024, RPK is playing for Vitality, right? And Vitality is still a top team. I that seems like unreasonable.
The fact we're talking about 2024 or 2025 just freaked me the fuck out. Jesus.
Right?
Yeah.
But still, like, yeah, it did catch me kind of off guard just because of, I don't know, they just made this like Misuta change. Nivera is just like moving out. Now they're focusing on this 5. From that perspective, it kind of caught me off guard. Also, I mean, they had some rough results. What is it, like 3 out of 4 events going out like in group stage or early in the tournament, bottom half. So it was a warning sign, but at the same time, I felt like I didn't really think they were going to make her change, right?
Sure. What about you, MSL? Do you think this is a surprise considering recent results, or do you think it's necessary to make these kind of changes in this current era to stay competitive?
I'm actually not sure what I feel about this one. I think that, yeah, I was very surprised by it, and I feel like the whole end of 2020, they basically dominated the whole scene with like Nivea and the 6-man lineup. So yeah, and I also looked at like 1.5 months ago, or 2 months ago, they were number 2 in the world on HLTV. So I think it's pretty fast to take this decision. But in the end, like, it's the team that knows best what need to be done. So I always feel like when you comment on this stuff, like also when I have done some stuff with past teams, everyone else have an opinion, but you don't know what has happened in the team or what the thoughts behind and so on.
I mean, my understanding is that it kind of happened kind of quickly.
It feels like it, right?
The decision, and that obviously initially the post from Vitality sounds like it's like they parted ways, but it's simply they benched RPK. It's like a one-sided thing. So it wasn't like RPK doesn't want to compete anymore or something like that. It was just like a team side decision that they want to operate in that role. Like I was talking about this earlier, when the Jax situation, when Jax wasn't playing for G2 for like 2-3 months, I thought maybe that's the direction they could go. Maybe not the same player, but I felt like there was a lot of overlap that you could replace RPK with Jax and kind of continue in a similar manner. But it doesn't seem to be an option anymore, right? When he's playing in G2 now.
Sure. Well, there's a lot of talk around why or why not just with Nivera here, Striker. It seemed pretty clear from the camp, though. The reason, I think there was a tweet. There was a tweet coming out from one of the members of
the CEO.
Yeah. It's to do with roles, right?
Yeah. He said something along those lines that like basically like RPK is very hard to replace, and that this guy Kyojin is actually like one of the few people who can. So it does really seem like it just comes down to roles, but that to me doesn't really make sense compared to what Vitality have been doing in the past 6 months. Like, why, if like 6 months ago you don't see like a removal of RPK coming, I don't feel like there's any sort of difference between the RPK that we saw 6 months ago and the one that we saw now.
Sure.
I don't feel like he's any worse or better than Diva. I feel like he's just there, the same guy that he's always been.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if they didn't see it coming at the time, then I guess I understand. They just wanted to have like a bit of a fresh lineup with Nivera coming in. But if they did, then why would you just spend 6 months trying to accommodate a player that you're not going to use in the end, when you actually do replace somebody? So it's very awkward to me. It's just like either Nivera is no longer an option just because he's joining some other team, or this is really just purely role-based and they didn't expect to replace RPK down the line and just has nothing to do with each other.
Sure. I guess I can understand from a couple of different angles, right? Like in the sense of, like, I guess Nivera doing AWPing or secondary AWPing stuff is going to make it a bit funky when we got Shock, Zywo, and Nivera in the server all the time. And if you're right there and they are, or your speculation could be in talks to be going somewhere else, where would you say that would be though, Striker, right? Like, is there any clear home for a player like Nivera right now?
I mean, the one place that we have been talking about since this came out that Nivera is no longer in Vitality's lineup is G2, right?
Okay.
Because that's like the place that kind of makes sense just because of the AWPing issue that was there. Obviously, I doubt that it is the case just because like they seem pretty set on at least trying this Nico thing out. So
well, they spent a lot of money on it, so you want to give it a good crack.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that he would replace Nico. Obviously not. It would have to be instead of Jax. But still, yeah, that's like the only place that I can think of right now, just because there's no other international teams that we know about, especially not now that the flusha and Sunny thing came out and they actually have a different offer. So yeah, it's difficult to predict where he would go if that's the case.
Okay. Let's kind of pivot off in a couple of directions here. The first one, let's stay with the new kid, Kyojin. I'm going to get used to saying his name by the end of the night, I promise. Lucas, I sent you a link on Discord. I can't get on TeamSpeak on the other PC, so I sent you a little link. It's a Reddit thread, and in there as well, if you can, we could just bring up the Reddit. Tell me when it's up. This was posted 8 days ago. So maybe this has something to do with how we're seeing Kyojin on the Vitality roster so quickly. He made a tweet saying he is eligible to compete in the Valve events. So this would mean that there's obviously been some confusion or some issues along the line with it, with a bit of a VAC ban scenario. Now, if you click on his little document, thank God he did a document, not a twit longer. Smart man. You can edit the document. The fucking twit longer stays like that forever. Don't do twit longers. Let's do these guys. These are nice. All right. Anyway, he's put this out. He said, "Hello, everybody. From today, I have the pleasure to announce a news which is particularly precious to me." And definitely he's French. And it will probably change my life. I wanted to have an official validation from Valve for a long time to answer the past rumors about me and to clear my name. A few weeks ago, Jerome proposed to help me conduct a full investigation with Valve. And after a lot of hard work and discussions, I'm happy to announce that officially eligible to participate in Valve events. Yeah. So basically from there, he just goes on to thank the people that helped him out and to see you soon, stronger than ever. And now 8 days later, he's in Vitality. Coincidence, Prof?
In what way? Do you mean like Vitality was waiting for this to happen for...
Maybe?
I don't know, but another thing to consider is like when we had Apex on the show last week, he was talking about playing a lot of these like French Pro League.
True.
So it's FPL, but not like FaZe Pro League, but the French Pro League, and having a lot of fun, meeting people, a lot of good feedback from that. So I guess that is also where kind of this comes from. That's just completely my guess. But also, if he wasn't clear for this was just like, long story short, it wasn't like that he had a VAC ban, but there were some talks about some account that was kind of linked to him. So people started talking that he's maybe not eligible to play Valve events, but he emailed Valve and he got it cleared, right? So that's the kind of the conclusion of the story. And yeah, a lot of people were actually asking about this guy when we had Apex on the show, like ask about Kyojin. I'm like, Hujin, like who is this guy?
Exactly.
Right? Like I saw the name a bit, but I don't know anything else about him. So
maybe he's the second Saiwu and they are all fucked now.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you a bit of a question, MSL. I'm not expecting you to have the answer, but I'm gonna try my luck. Have you seen this guy in any pugs or anything? Like, it's a really broad question, but yeah, I was, because that's the thing. Like, it's really just somebody not on anybody's radar, and I suppose that's the thing with these regions where there's still the like, yeah, I don't know how to say this less cunty. So like the Danes and the people in the Nordic countries and everything, you guys all love speaking English, but the French, if you don't fucking like English very much, and like because of that, it's also their scene is quite protected, right? Because we obviously don't know the language, what's going on there. So it's same, I guess, with the CIS. I don't speak Russian because I'm an ignorant motherfucker. Like I don't know these talented players until I see them on my screen. So I thought maybe we'd seen this guy in the realms of pugs. But let's pivot to talking about RPK and what he's going to do. MSL, do you think that RPK is done now, like in terms of competing as a professional? Do you think you'll have to go into one of these teams where he's more of like a helping grow the scene of France? Like, what do you think is the future for someone like RPK? I know it's hard to say because you don't know what's going on in his head. Yeah. But he made a tweet today saying he was going to reflect. Do you think he can still compete?
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't think, like, I think he could even stay in Vitality, you know, and they could still do a good job later on. This is the thing, like, it's funny, like, if somebody gets kicks, it's just automatically like, oh, he's just done. He's old, he's done or something. And it's like, if you have competed at this level for so long and also shown that, I think AWPing in many matches have played really good in the roles he had. So I think that he for sure can compete and have experience, and yeah, it just depends on what team. I think right now it will be hard to get a team. I'm not sure.
Well, I think opportunities are the problem because he doesn't speak English.
It has to be French teams, right?
No.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So that's a bit exactly.
Oh shit.
Okay, then I'm not sure.
But this is the thing. Someone
he could always join like an up and coming French team. Like that's always a possibility.
Yeah.
Probably.
Who's in LDLC now?
Sixer, Haji, Lambert,
Maka and Kios.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's like a decent team. Like 50 something in the world and have a decent organization.
Oh, we got
behind
double
them.
pony.
Yeah, but they're not a team. They're just like, let's
Pug.
play HLTV matches and have good stats.
I mean,
Okay.
there's another possibility, which is just like, you know, put together all the fucking benched players in France right now, which is Nivera, NBK, RPK, Kenny S, and just like have them mix up. But obviously, like buyouts are a bit of a problem. I'm assuming with everybody. I'm not sure what Nivera's contract
The worst thing
looks
is like the roles kind of work, right?
Yeah.
NBK, IGL, you have RPK as the anchor, you have like Flex Nivera and Kenny S hopping. You just need a fifth. I mean, you can pick up someone for sure. So that's the worst
That's
thing.
probably gonna happen.
The only thing is that NBK has kind of, I feel like he's kind of made it clear that he really doesn't want to play at a French roster ever again. I think I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure he said something very similar along those lines.
But he's already playing with this DBL pony or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but that seems like just like a mixed team type thing, like just so he can play something. I don't think that's very serious.
But he wants the in-game lead, right? So he could, but he could just go into the in-game leading there, no questions asked, because none of those other guys are going to want an in-game lead. I'll give you the opposite, right? Like,
from what I know, it's like I think he understands that in-game leading can open more doors for him now than being like this kind of in-game leader, which also has like a kind of bad rep being that, since he got kicked from the last two teams doing it, right? So yeah, I think he just wants to go on and just take control of the team fully and have that responsibility, which makes sense.
Well, I hope somebody in the chat finds the tweet that he said that. But I'm like very sure that he said something very definitive about French teams.
Oh, we forgot about Alex, right?
Things
There's always
change.
Alex around.
Things
oh
change.
yeah, there's Alex now, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
That didn't work out last time.
There's actually so many good players. What is going on?
That's the thing, right? There's like if we got that free agent list, we always bring it up, but it just feels like it's getting longer and longer with people who are so experienced. But the problem is, like, it's so hard right now. There are so many good teams, and I think in the online era, right, we're pivoting a little bit right now. But I think what's going to happen in the future is a lot of these teams who are having now academy rosters, like we got these NAVI Academy, we got Astralis doing their young things, we got the young ninjas. Everybody now, right, appears to be doing this, and what that's going to save these orgs. In a lot of cases, unless it's a Zywoo, unless it's a Nico, unless it's a superstar, a lot of these occasions, I think they're just going to go, we'll just get these kids in young, we'll train them up the way we want them, and then we'll put them in the team, right? If flamie's no good, we'll put in Bit. If this guy's no good, we'll put in this guy, right? That's going to save them a shitload of money in buyouts. It's probably going to save them a shitload of money in salary. And I think with that, for a lot of the teams who can afford this, it's going to course correct the money a bit. I think like that's a way that people don't have to, because right now people are getting stuck on the bench, they're getting stuck with these buyouts. Like that right there is not a situation anybody wants them to find themselves in, but it feels like to me, I don't know if this is the case, like I don't keep my finger on the pulse, I'm not a financial guy, but these TOs in a time like this where, you know, money is feeling more and more scarce, and not going to be wanting to spend shitloads of money on these buyouts. So I'm going to be curious to see how that all shakes out within the next 6 to 12. But it is not alarming, but it is interesting to see like people finding themselves in the situation where it's like, how do we pivot? How do I get a team? It's going to be, that development is going to be curious. What's that link here, Prof? Is this? Oh, okay. No, people have been keeping their eye on that.
I just saw this. Yeah.
Okay, Lucas. We don't need to bring that up. We're not going to do that shit. We'll leave that.
It's not even over, but like props. We can comment maybe at the end of the episode.
Okay.
We'll leave it until the series.
Really?
We'll wait till the series is over, and then we can talk about it. Because look, I'll just say one thing: Petra is fucking bodying those guys. Like in the first map, I was keeping an eye on it. She was owning them. She was like 32 for 19 or something. She's plus 13. Just they didn't win, but
32-19 on Nuke. Yeah.
Yeah, she was doing great. Like I don't think many people are expecting like Lemon Dog's roster to do a lot, though. If we're going to be honest about things, are we? Snyder, Zelos is back. Fucking.
It's just the difference
Money's
between her and the rest of the team. It's like 153 rating and then 08, 08, 07, 07. That's like, it's impressive to see.
She was owning again, 27 plus 12. Fucking hell! All right, we might check in on that. See how long the show goes. See how long that best of 3 goes. But let's jump. Did anyone else have anything they want to say about Vitality?
Do we want to do some like predictions or like what do we think is going to happen?
Well, we got to do the showdown, right? Oh, I guess they won't see them there. Okay, yeah. What do you think is going to happen, Prof?
I don't like.
We haven't seen this kid play.
Yeah, let's. I don't know. Let's see. I'll say I trust Xtas's gut on this. Like, I don't think they would kick RPK if they didn't see a lot of potential in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, his track record is pretty good so far.
Masuda took some time though.
Yeah, I mean, Masuda's still not like an amazing superstar, whatever, but he's still much younger as well. So maybe this guy has a better understanding of the role and everything.
Right, but they still became like a top 5 team very quickly after he came in. So that's I think yeah, I'd agree with that.
It will all work out.
I mean, I love
That's not
last time when we had Apex on the show, he was talking about how they solved their Inferno issue. It's like, okay, we brought in Nevera. Nevera can only play long. So we put him on long, and our issue was B. So we just moved ZywOo to B, and B was fixed. Before ZywOo was an A, and B was very bad. And so we just put this ultimate solution on that site, and suddenly it became better. So I'm
crazy,
like, well,
right?
Tactical genius, right? Jokes aside, I mean, he's been doing well.
Yeah, that change is one of the ones I think they might suffer with the most, right? Inferno for them. But MSL, you just think this is a ZywOo factor? They're always going to be competitive. Doesn't really matter who's around him.
I think that they're always going to be competitive with him. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about a team who we don't know if they're going to be competitive or not, because this one's really weird. Striker, I saw this pop up today. I didn't read about it. I won't lie. I'm seeing this guy's name attached to every project now. MICHU to EG. What the fuck is going on?
I mean, Prof, you made that
Oh,
article.
Prof did write it. All right, Prof,
ahead.
what the fuck is going on?
Apparently, this is like really happening.
Really happening.
This is really happening. Not like
really happening. Okay.
Not like the last time when MICHU was going to OG.
Yeah.
That was just like testing the water. This time, it is happening. He is practically signing with EG.
Okay.
And it should be Derek that's going out. So
where are we getting this from?
You can't ask that.
Prof have all secret sources.
I'll just say that every guy that told me everything, I'll just let it out here.
Well, no, are you getting it from a reliable source?
No, this is a reliable source. Yeah.
Okay, this isn't just like
this should be like announced in the next couple of days.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, are we okay? Well, is this another where we lose another one to Valorant? Like, Tarek's not quitting because he missed that spray, is he? Right? Like that would fucking pains me.
That is gonna be if this happens. That is gonna be his potentially last.
The guy won a major as the in-game leader. Like we can't remember him for that. That fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's not great. I don't know if they plan to keep him on or like I don't know if he's taking time off or maybe there's something about it. But like MICHU should come into this lineup and be part of the 5, and Derek is the guy to go out.
Okay, let me throw it this way to you here, Striker. When you see this change, right? They just added Obo, right? Things weren't going fantastically well. They did have to play against some really hard teams, but things haven't been going great. They have a rough time. They now replace one of their North American players with another European player. Like, is there not enough talent going around in North America? Is this a quick fix? Like, does this feel like the right move?
I think in terms of who they're moving, I think that's always been kind of like the next move that they could make. Like nobody saw Ethan leaving this roster, then they just kind of had to replace one of their better players, right? But I think there was always either Tarek or Stan leaving this team like next in terms of performance, right? So I think that makes a lot of sense. The fact that it's MICHU is definitely interesting. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Is it that much of an is it that much of an upgrade, right?
I mean, individually, I would say so. I think MICHU still has a lot to offer, and like Tarek has obviously been around for a long time, and he's kind of been at the same place for quite a long time. So I don't think we can expect him to suddenly step up, and be like another star for this team. So for them to try out somebody else makes a lot of sense to me. Whether it is MICHU or not, I just don't know, right? We haven't really seen him play that much lately, so it's just difficult to say.
Sure. This puts a lot of things into question about like where the team's going to be residing for most. Like obviously to play Counter-Strike right now, you have to play in Europe. I think that goes without question. But I guess this is telling that they're obviously either planning on spending a lot more time here, or they're going to make some kind of a prac schedule work. But yeah, it just seems like, I don't want to say an odd move, but there is a lot of players that we're talking about who are available here. Is it? What do you think, MSL, when you see MICHU joining this team? Is he somebody who you think is going to elevate them to back to it being a top 10 team?
I'm not too sure about it. I also feel like they just added Obo, so it's weird that they changed after one event, but it must be something with Tarek wanting to go home, I guess, or something. But I feel like
maybe it was just a long time coming, man. It's very possible that it was just like this Ethan thing. I think kind of came as a surprise, maybe even to the team, and like Tarek was probably like on a knife's edge for a very long time. So I think this is just the time.
But it feels a bit like a band-aid, right? That's where I was kind of, it doesn't feel like this is the I guess you got to start somewhere, right? I guess you have to.
I mean, what would you have done?
I don't know.
I guess.
Honestly, like, in my opinion, I think, like I said before, that I don't think the Obo change alone would make a big difference. And I think now that they changed 2 players, and it's better to like change 2 kind of at the same time, even though it's not at the same time, it's like a couple of weeks difference. But it's better that than like 3 months in to change another player and then have to start again from kind of scratch, but not scratch, right? Now they get a fresh start with the new lineup. I was actually thinking about Zeppa, but probably it's just all of this like North American shit that's going on. I think like Zeppa would be a decent replacement as well, and someone they could probably get at a decent, like, cheap price. I don't think Cloud9 is going to be expecting to cash in on Zeppa right now.
Sure.
From the other side, like I think MICHU is a decent player, but the issue I see now is, aside from Stan, is anyone here actually going to be like vocal in a round? Like how, like you take out Ethan, who was a guy that could like give in ideas and co-call and stuff like that, and Tarek as well, who was doing that. And I have Obo and MICHU. I don't know them that well, but I don't see them as those types of players, right? They don't have any history of calling or leading or anything. So that's the issue I see for the team, even though I think the firepower is going to be like upgraded significantly.
I wouldn't be surprised if MICHU was kind of that type of a player, to be honest.
It's a bit harder though, right?
I don't know though. Like it's just pure speculation from my side. But I have a feeling that MICHU might be that guy, just because he's been around for quite a long time and been like in like some prominent rosters in Poland. So I think could be something there.
Sure, it's an interesting one. MSL, do you think like that is as big as a problem as maybe what we're speculating here, not having a second voice? If you have a strong coach, do you think you can get away with it with strong coach and strong in-game leader, and everybody else are more like the sheep, or do you definitely need that second in charge in the server?
I think you can get away with it to a certain point. I don't think that you can like get top 5 or something like that without a second voice. I feel like you need a second voice. But yeah. I also, just to touch a bit on Tarek, I feel like he's one of those players that is really a lane player. Like I feel like he lives for the hype on lane, and like it's making him better. So yeah, maybe all this online have also taken a toll on him.
He's been doing this for a long time, right? I guess, well, maybe not as long as some of us, but he's definitely been playing at this level now for well, a stretch of years. What was it? When was the CLG stuff? Is that 2015? 2014, 2015, so a decent stretch. We're slowly losing them. Hopefully it's not like a Valorant move. Hopefully it's just like going to do what GetRight's done and just go on stream, because then it's not, it doesn't feel as bad. It always, you know what I mean? Oh, we didn't ask you about that, MSL. Did you consider Valorant?
No,
okay.
I would
not
never.
At all?
No. I actually, funny thing is that I had 2 offers from 2 very big organizations and I just thought, like, I never touched Valorant. What is happening? But I could never see myself in anything else than CS. Like, it's my passion, and I honestly, like, I can't put myself in the foot of the people that just can change to Valorant. Like, I would, if it was the right team, I could move to Asia to play. Like, I wouldn't give a fuck. And I can just not. Yeah, I don't understand it.
Okay.
People in chat are saying that MICHU was calling in this like Polish mix they were playing in.
Isn't that a bit different?
Yeah, but it's just like something to mention when people have some like additional information. I feel like it's fair.
Yeah. They might be bang on. We don't know. We're speculating as we always do. Let's move into the next piece of news. This one's a fun one. NAVI to field bit over flamie at the next RMR event. Now, we all know that Valve have come out, and we've always known Valve's stance, but basically these 6-man rosters that we saw towards the tail end, middle of last year, they're going to have to pick a 5-man roster to compete. And I think NAVI are the only ones who were really still at the top level flirting around with that. Astralis have really shown no indication of want to use Bubsky. And Vitality obviously came out and said that they were no longer doing this Nevera thing. So it was just NAVI, and now they've come out and they've said that Bit's going to be playing, which means he has to be there for all 6 of their maps. Do we think this is him being phased out, Prof?
It seems like it. I definitely feel like this is like Bit's time to shine, and unless he kind of shits the bed or doesn't really prove that he can keep the spot, then maybe flamie comes back. But I also feel like even if that happens, they probably look for someone else instead of flamie. That's kind of just my opinion.
Okay. Well, they seem to always struggle in their domestic events anyway, right, Striker? So do you think this is just to try and do something different because of that? Or do you think it's more with what Prof was saying, more of a potential long-term, or what I was saying and Prof answered? Do you think it's more of a long-term thing?
I think this is a long-term thing just because of how they kept bits until now, right? They probably wouldn't have if they didn't have this sort of a plan in for him, unless they want to do like the Bubsky thing and just maybe like switch around with certain tournaments, which we're kind of assuming will happen at some point with Astralis, but like doesn't look like it will. But yeah, I think they just had this plan from whenever like they knew that they weren't going to be able to use the 6-man roster.
Okay. Then this obviously opens the door to the future players, and I guess they might pick from that NAVI junior roster. When you look at NAVI, right, MSL, and I know that we've spoken about this before. I think it was like at a Star Ladder event, and we were at some place in Kiev, and we were talking about basically having Simple in the team, and how good he is, right? But with Simple in the team in this situation, and flamie not performing, and maybe Perfecto not always having a good series, and Boomich is sometimes really good and sometimes really bad. Like when you have all of those symptoms and you have 2 very strong players in Simple and Electronic in your team, what are you looking at as the issue for these guys? Because I know they're still 4th in the world, and we've been talking about them before. They were like still 1st or 2nd or wherever the fuck they were in the rankings. Like they're still high up, but they're not looking like a team that has Simple and Electronic in the team, if that makes sense, right? They're not looking like a powerhouse world beater consistently. What do you reckon's going on with NAVI?
I would say I have always felt like when I have met them that they were not so strong tactically. Obviously I haven't met them for quite some time, but even like I think we met them with North, where we won against them with against them, and I just feel like back then at least they were not so tactically. I'm not so sure how much they developed with Blade, but I would say tactically and team play wise is probably the issues that I have seen. I'm not sure, like you don't know how. I think it's hard to be an in-game leader with a player like Simple, and you need to give him certain space and so on. I think that it can be hard as an in-game leader. So I'm not sure.
What do you, when you like for an average viewer, when you say that they're not good tactically or team play wise, like how do you feel that on the server in the game?
I can just I just remember every time I played NAVI, Simple was really good, but I always felt like even though we were the worst team, obviously individually, I could win against them with the tactics and the structure. And obviously, if both Electronic and Simple and so on is on fire, then you will get wrecked because they're insane. But that's how I felt in my games. I'm not sure how much they came, how far they came now.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same things that people have issues with NAVI nowadays. I mean, flamie as well individually, you can point fingers that way, but otherwise it's kind of those things that you talked about.
I can just give an example. Like, for example, I prepared for a nuke match, and they would always get bomb play on top of main, electronic towards secret, and then 3 guys lobby. And this would just be their, like, they would do it so many rounds. And I was actually thinking, like, how are you doing it so many rounds? Like, it's very readable. And I would just go secret with my AWP and kill electronic and just wait. And yeah, I'm not sure. Like, for me, yeah, they were not good tactically. I'm not sure anymore.
I could definitely see what you're saying in their gameplay, right? And I think it's probably virtue of having the strong players is because a lot of the time they can go, yeah, let's just do a default round, like where we just do the standard stuff. And yeah, simple and electronic will, in let's say 50% of the rounds, get the kills we need. And you can see it when it doesn't happen. That's when they're all just kind of standing around, like looking at each other, like, well, there's 15 seconds left. Do we just run in and die? And like that, and they're like, there's nothing behind it. And that's maybe the biggest problem, right? Is like having those super, like the super sharp tools in the shed, like is great. But if you're not using the tools properly, or the tools don't want to be used in the way you want to use them, there's always going to be an issue there, right? And I think like with how many games are being played now, what you said earlier, MSL, about how now like you use something in practice and then 2 days later you see whatever you did in practice already being used by like a bunch of other teams. Like if you're not innovating and you're not constantly making things look different, you're fucked, right? Because you're just going to be running the exact same stuff you're talking about and getting counter-stratted. These days is what we all know teams are doing, right? There's so many more analysts, people looking at all those kind of details. The prep for teams in matches is a lot better. It's just like, I think we all want NAVI to be like one of the strongest teams because Simple is so good, right? And it's just at the moment, I guess there's a lot of factors, the online shit, that, you know, but hopefully they can find their footing. Now, do we want to stick on this anymore, Strike? Anything else you want to jump in with NAVI?
No, let's go.
All right. Flames completes OG. Now, we had Robin in the chat when we were talking about potentially Flames to OG, and he gave a bit of a warning that it was too expensive. Well, apparently OG, he was only joking, I'm aware, but apparently OG have enough money to get Flames, or maybe Endpoint are playing ball and helping facilitate this transfer. But this is rounding out the OG roster. So just for those people maybe not too familiar, maybe you're not tuning into every show. OG previously, Issa and BK, they're both gone now. Adding Nico from Heroic and Flames, who we saw most recently with Endpoint in EPL as the 5th. And this kind of fits the bill of the aggressive rifler we wanted to see, right, Striker?
Yeah, that's for sure. I really like this change, honestly. I think it just makes so much sense.
Yeah, look, a lot of people don't remember because I was like on the OG with the roster with Issa and MBK. I'm going to be any good. Yeah, from the beginning, right? That was me from the beginning. I didn't hate them. I just didn't think they were going to be a world-beating team. I didn't think they were going to be a top 5 consistent squad. And I was quite vocal about that for some reason. I don't know. I'm a weird dude. Things are wrong with my brain. I'm sorry. Anyway, I was very vocal at the beginning. Now, people got vocal towards the end, going, oh, this roster's not going to work. It's not enough firepower. For me, it seemed the case from the start. And now that they've made this change, now it does feel like there's enough firepower. I think we didn't know what MANTU had to offer when he was first in this team. He's actually turned out to be the biggest revelation of the OG project. I would say in terms of the impact I've seen for them in bigger matches of winning, I think that he has been their star. I think Volde is great, but I think MANTU is the guy who's actually showed up in a way that nobody expected. I think Alexi, in terms of his calling, we've heard it with the comms and stuff, and we've seen him try and develop as an in-game leader over there in the internationals. He's done a good job. And now adding in Nico, who I think is a great player. I don't know. What do you think about Nico's addition to this team, MSL? I know that that's a change or two ago, but still obviously a big part of this, and you used to play with Nico.
Yeah, I think it's a good choice. I think he's one of the players that I trusted a lot, and I think it's very nice as an in-game leader to have players that you trust and that you can rely on. And I would say both Valde and Nico is that for me. And I don't have a lot of those guys, so I would say it's really good change for them. And I think Flames is also a good change just because they have Alexi, Nico, Valdez pretty experienced, and they have MANTU, which is new, but I already feel like he's like really strong and smart player. And then they have more firepower with Flames and like more YOLO. I think he's like, yeah, kind of like Yekandar at some point. And I also had a walk with Valde where he said that it was like Flames is a more YOLO player, and he will do the extra that you don't expect. So I think it's a good.
That's exactly what OG were missing. That
Yeah.
like X factor player, because for them for me it was always Alexi B making the space, doing the plays when everything was kind of in a standstill. It was literally always him. So that's a good upgrade. Like I look forward to seeing them in the showdown.
They might still have a bit of a ping issue though, but they are boot camping now, right? That's another big thing
Literally,
for OG.
like the second that this is out, they get a boot camp going. Like this is basic, man.
But I suppose like we've already seen Spinks get out to Finland, so maybe it's a little bit easier. This is from Jordan,
clearly,
right? Yeah. Like I look, I'm not even going to pretend to know what's going on in that region whatsoever. So I won't open my mouth about that shit. But
I just know that they have like a really high amount of vaccinated people.
Okay.
In Israel, yeah.
That's good news. All right.
Like a really, like I think like the most in the world or something.
Yeah, they are the best. Denmark is trying to steal from them ideas.
Okay. That's good news on a health standpoint. Now, the fact that this team has a boot camp, we're going to talk about the showdown later. They have a big matchup because of changing to Flames, but this is basically we were all thinking maybe MICHU was going to be the player over there. It ends up being Flames. It covers off the bases. I think you guys have all heard us talk about this time and time again. We can leave this one here. Still plenty of stuff to talk about with Mad Lions. Okay, this one came pretty quick. Prof, I know you like this one.
I deleted this off of the topic when I saw like all of the other news.
Well, how about this? You just say the quick summarize this, and then we'll move on.
Keen was signed to the team to develop. Obviously, we heard Kuben also on the show. All of the coaching staff, they're investing into these players, they're developing them. They're going to be so good when they put in the time and all of these resources. And then 2 weeks later, Keen is out of the team, and fuck that guy. And they got SPELLAN, and that's the whole story. Okay. SPELLAN is actually like a pretty good signing for Mad Lions. Pretty experienced, still pretty young. Maybe can develop, maybe can't. Who knows? But he's an in-game leader, so that's going to fit.
It definitely fits more like the profile that Kuben was talking about when he was on the show, where he was saying how like he wants an in-game leader that people will kind of like gather around, you know, like a leader type and stuff like that. Somebody a lot more experienced, just so they have some more balance compared to like the much less experienced players that they have. So I think somebody like SPELLAN, who's been around for quite a while, and I think is relatively respected, like a lot at the lower tier. I think that's a decent change.
Okay. Did Mad Lions ever come knocking on your door, MSL?
I won't comment.
Okay.
That's nice.
I'm surprised like this isn't a project where we see like someone like Emmy end up, but I guess maybe he's hoping he can get back on another like FPX type of team.
Right.
Anyway, let's jump into the RMR stuff. So finally, I guess it's not really finally. We really don't know where the world's at right now, but the RMR events have been announced
Not
for
all of them.
The Asian, the NA, and the EU. So we're missing the CIS and the Oceanic.
South America.
Oh, South American. Yeah, okay. Does Oceania get their own? I don't know how that works.
Yeah, they should get their own as well.
Okay, and maybe I was gonna say maybe we're only going to do the main regions, but we have Asia in here and not the CIS. So this is quite curious. Who's running each of these? I honestly haven't looked. I'm not going to lie.
Flashpoint to you, Summit NA, and then who's in Asia?
Perfect World.
Perfect World. There you go.
Okay, I did see the thing with the Perfect World because they had that like anime style. That was cool. I thought that was pretty cool. In terms of this, is there anything to come out of it? I saw people started talking about some of the rules again, as if they weren't the same rules that we all saw months ago. Are they different?
Not entirely, just because there's a chance like the slot distribution will be changed based on where these NA teams will start. Essentially, well, I don't think we can expect like the European teams to go to NA all of a sudden just to get an easier RMR tournament. But for the NA teams, like if there's a chance that they stay in Europe, then they could actually shift some of the spots that NA had reserved for them to Europe.
So that's like extreme. I'm going to play the RMR in Europe instead of an NA, right? That's
they might want to go to NA, right?
Like that. I mean, I would assume all of these North American. I think this is just like purely theoretical. I would assume all of these NA teams are more than happy to go back every couple of months just to play the RMR event. Even Extreme, who are now based in Europe. I think I even said this on Twitter. I think they're like the biggest question mark when it comes to this, just because they don't live at NA anymore, so they don't really have a place to go unless they set something up. Obviously,
like a visa issue or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. There's like it's much more of a hassle for them now So that might be a bit of a question mark, but the rest of the teams, I'm sure like that there's not going to be even a question.
What would you do, MSL, if you were in Xtrfy's position? You now live in Europe, but your RMR points or qualification could be done in NA. What would you do?
That's actually a tough question.
Because obviously,
would you rather
in
go
Europe,
through the harder region? I don't know, man.
It's just also like, yeah, it depends on if they are missing out on tournaments in Europe and so on. It's also like how long you need to stay, because practice in NA is also horrible. So if you stay a long time, I don't think it's so nice. But yeah,
well, I mean, at least you have like all the other teams to play against, although you also play against them in the tournament. So that's kind of difficult.
So that's
yeah.
And if you play against the same 5, you're for sure gonna feel like you know them very well. But I would probably pick NA. Like, just because.
Take the risk.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap up the recent news. I'm going to start talking about Pro League. That just finished last night. If you guys missed it, it was a best of 5 grand final. Gambit versus Heroic. Went all 5 maps. Heroic ended up winning in the end. It started out with a lot of one-sided halves on the first 3 maps. I think Vertigo was a stomp. Inferno was overtime. Train was overtime. I think it was 54
times.
Yeah. And then we had Overpass, which was actually a pretty good game. It was in the first half, and I'd say the first stages of the second half, the most tight-knit game obviously we had the overtime games, but in terms of back and forth nature, I would say probably the closest of the bunch. And then obviously that stomp on the end with the Cadian clutch on Mirage. If you guys missed that one, it apparently pretty good. Check that one out. It's been popping on off. But with this, we got lots to break down. And Props put this online versus LAN discussion in here, and I think this is because MSL, you made a tweet, and then I made a tweet. But
we talked with each other without tagging each other.
Yeah, no, but also mine wasn't even in response to you, because let me just give this to piece of info to everybody. Is when I read what you wrote, I understand where you're saying that from. But when I read some fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry on a forum or in a tweet or in a thread, who is just an alias, like saying like fuck watching online Counter-Strike, like this is shit. Like, okay, I get it, right? But you're not doing it, right? And these people will have these like kind of weird, antiquated is the wrong word. I don't know why I said that. They have these weird opinions on things, and those are the people who my tweet was referring to, because you like. I definitely know that you understand the hard work of the online era. I definitely know that you, but in terms of somebody who's experienced online, LAN, and in this era, you know that there are differences for players online and LAN. So with those tweets there, mine was definitely not directed at anything in a negative light here. It was just letting the fucking dickheads out there know that these are the best teams that we have right now, and they're putting in a shitload of work. Now, I wouldn't mind quizzing you, because the way I look at this, and this is open discussion for everybody here, but the way I look at this now is we're going to have been off LAN for almost a year and a half, right? If the major happens, we need to have an RMR event on LAN before it. So we're talking at least a year and a half offline. Do you think online? Do you think that is going to help level it out, or there's still going to be a drastic change for a team like Gambit, Heroic, those kind of names, even though they're in their boot camp environment? Do you still think it's going to be a drastic change for them when they go to the offline events?
In some ways, yes, but obviously they worked super hard, and they are playing really good CS. Like, I stole a lot of stuff from Heroic when I was still playing, because they had I think Heroic, just to take it a bit off topic, but I think they have Cadian have. When I looked him in North, it was like default, and then it was a pop flash somewhere, pop flash monster. And I think he have really improved. Like, I have never seen such improvement, and I think it's obviously up to him, but I think also Hunten have done an amazing job, because they are playing with a lot more structure now, combined with his YOLO style and some more gimmick calls, which I really liked when I saw it. I stole a lot of that. So I think they're playing really, really good CS. But the thing where I think it's gonna change is that one thing is that I think the bigger teams like Astralis, Vitality, NAVI, and Liquid, I think those teams will step up quite drastically, because one thing you have to consider is that Gambit and these heroic players, the biggest thing they have probably tried is what they are trying online right now, where the teams on the big teams, they have tried so many things. Just think about Astralis, how many stadiums. I even looked like in 2019 they played 7 online matches, and this was where there was lands. And it's just to think about, like, they have been so used to LAN that I just think that it's hard to get the same hunger. Like, I think maybe like I would always have the same hunger, but I also know that some of my players in my teams would not have the same hunger and not use the same time. So I think a lot will change there, and also the fact that like the players from, let's just take example like Gambit and Heroic. I think the only player that have been in a big stadium playoff match is Hobbit. I think so, at least. I'm not 100% sure.
I mean,
But
they've done some of these like DreamHack finals and stuff like that, so it's not like they're completely inexperienced.
Yeah, but I think there's really a huge difference on a DreamHack Open. Talking from experience, I have won a lot of DreamHack Open. Just saying.
The king of DreamHack.
But there's a huge difference on big stadium events and DreamHack Open, and there's a big difference going from quarterfinals to semifinals to finals. Like, there's so many emotions you're going through. There's so much pressure. I think the biggest thing, and I don't know Nafani, I know KDN quite a lot, but not in recent times, so I can't say, but I just think there's a huge difference on calling. I think there's a huge difference on how individual players, what risk they take. Like, I saw, for example, a risk that, like, just a risk to talk about is like Heroic on Mirage refresh Molotov ramp. He smokes it and goes through the smoke and just push instantly. Like, that's a play that is very, it's from confidence. And will you do the same on LAN? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. We don't know how they are working, and this is what I'm saying. Like, that I think a lot can change, and you never know.
I know where you're coming from, right? In the sense of, like, the pressure's a lot higher, right? Because there's 10,000 people in an arena watching you throw a grenade that you do in your bedroom, or you do in your little boot camp environment every time, that's peaceful and perfectly set up. And you've got Sirison there. Not Sirison. He's normally at home. You got Tizzy in there eating his fucking strawberries. And, they're like, everybody in ways that they're not going to be at these land events. You're going to be in a foreign bed. You're going to be sharing a room with one of your teammates. You're going to be traveling. You're going to be coming off of planes. There's all of those factors that are definitely going to filter into things when we do get back to the LAN environment. One of the things that I think is perfect for these type of teams is this environment they're in right now. They're getting to play the big games. They're getting a lot of experience. They're obviously getting a lot more time to practice, and kind of it is forcing the level of Counter-Strike up. And I think when we go back to LAN, it seems unlikely that we go straight back into arenas. It's going to be more like studio events, right? More like, okay, like, remember that one of the Pro League seasons, this was going back fucking eons ago, but it was just in the ESL office in Cologne, that old one that used to be across the river. Yeah. And it was, they're just sitting in and it's quite a sterile environment, right? I think we're going to have those type of environments, which are great for these kids to start integrating themselves. And we can see if they have it. The problem that I have is the way that people use onliners in my brain is the way that MSL, you and me, probably used it back in the day. When we called someone an onliner, it's because they would either never show their face at LAN, or when they did, they came and they were fucking dog shit, right? They were too nervous. They're sitting there, they're fucking sweating. And I don't think that these kids are going to have those same problems, just because they're already, a lot of them are playing in boot camp spaces. And I remember, dude, there was like a bunch of guys, like, they could only play that, they had the pull-out drawer and their stupid fucking mouse pad. And if they didn't have that environment at the LAN they're at, they sucked, right? And we've all played at LANs, like plenty of BYOCs, the Copenhagen games LANs, where, you don't have a lot of room, or it's noisy. Those experiences right there, all of what we kind of mean when we're talking about people being LAN players, right? So
I mean, that doesn't exist anymore. So.
Exactly. But those things are things that we kind of had to do once upon a time, that is to do with people playing Counter-Strike offline. Like, I think that, like what I was saying, it's going to be easier for these people to integrate now than ever before, right? It has to be, right? Because things are geared up for them to get slowly put one toe back in the water, just because of the state of the world. Anyway, I can't go on a tangent.
MSL, what kind of teams are going to fall off when we go to LAN? because of the playstyles. Like, is this like aggressive CT meta, pushing everything, probing all the time? Is that going to be something that's going to have less success when we go to LAN?
I'm not sure. Like, that's what I feel have been in the past, both because I don't think people are taking the same risk. Maybe they are not pushing as much as they would do online. But I actually, my point with my tweet was actually not so much that teams fall so much off. I just think that the bigger teams will go more up and in level. And that's why, for example, for me, like if I was Astralis, I would never change, because Astralis for me is also like back on lane. Like, I think one of the things that they relied so much on is that people are making so many more mistakes on lane because they feel pressure. They are like, communication is not as good. You have white noise in your ears. You have, sometimes you can hear the crowd and people's microphone. You can't play as much on intuition on lane because of the communication, I would say, because yeah, it's harder. People will begin and yell more. That's at least my experience. And yeah, I think the more structured the team have, the better they will be on lane. That's my point of view. And just to say, like, I think Heroic and Gambit will, teams like this, they are playing insane Counter-Strike. So at some point, I think they will win a big event on lane. And maybe they will do it the first lane, and I will not
your
have
hat.
eat the hat, whatever. But if there's not a crowd, it's not, the deal is off. But
the first one with the crowd, the big arena, yeah.
yeah.
All right, I think we can put a pin in this because I know Striker doesn't want to touch this conversation with a fucking 10-foot barge pole.
No, it's just something that I wanted to say on it, and it's that, like, the longer this goes, though, and maybe Astralis aren't the best example just because they've actually been like decent. That it's not like they've been horrible. You know, they still, you know, make the playoffs or whatever.
It's not like
they,
Fnatic's drop off.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think it really applies to them specifically, but like to some of these teams, like let's say Vitality keep shitting the bed like for the next whatever 3 more months, 4 more months, like they're going to lose a lot of confidence. I think confidence is a really underrated aspect in when it comes to these discussions, and like people saying they shouldn't change. Like eventually, like you're going to be so down on yourself that you just have no choice. Like you're not going to be good when you come back to line just because you've shit the bed for the past 6 months and couldn't do anything about it. So I think there's always a limit to this.
Okay. Well, we're going to come back to Astralis, so we'll put a bit of a pin in it, and we can address some of the tweets that have come out of that camp since they played. Let's focus in on Gambit and Heroic. Now, for those people who missed it, we had the second part, I guess, of the finals bracket over the last 4 days. We had the play-ins with some crazy results there, and then the Furia result over Astralis was pretty insane as well. But Gambit and Heroic managed to go undefeated and make it all the way to the final, which to me felt like it was pretty unusual. I don't know. I didn't end up looking into that, Striker. I know that I asked the question in our little group that we have, but it felt like it's unusual.
There was literally at that summit we had that happen.
Okay,
it's just like I said in the chat. Like I think it's quite rare with like some of these like huge group stage events leading into like long playoffs.
Yeah.
That type of events, I'm pretty sure that's relatively uncommon for both teams in the final to be undefeated. But like in any of these GSL group stage into single elimination tournaments, I'm pretty sure that happens all the time.
Sure. Now, to see these two names, one of which Gambit, we know they just won IEM Katowice and they've been looking really good, right? They've, I think, out in the year up until that point, they'd only lost like 4 best of 3s in total or something. So they were smashing it. And we obviously know they're on the up and up and they're stars and this, that, and the other. We could talk about them all day. But Heroic are the one who they'd made the 2 roster changes. They'd remained undefeated. But in terms of the opponents they had gone through, the hardest one was Gambit in the grand final. Do you think anybody attest that? Do you think they had any other tests really up until that other than Gambit?
I need to check because I forgot.
Like I know
those games were so long ago. They were in the group with Big and Renegades and those guys, so that was really super competitive. What was the
they
playoff
played
run?
An IP in the play, and then Furia, and then Gambit.
Yeah. So they Gambit like really is the only massive scalp that they took and the most important scalp because they won the whole bloody event.
Right.
But I think that going into that final, the jury for a lot of people was kind of still out on what they were expecting from Heroic. Anyway, so let's start with you on this one. When you look at it, right, and those 2 teams in the final, before they played, who did you think was going to win?
I actually didn't think about it, so I don't want to say like, oh,
No,
I
that's all
thought
right.
heroic. I'm so smart. No, but I didn't really think about it. But
right.
they're insane, both of them.
Well, let's try and pivot then from there, because look, that the best of 5 final. It's 8 hours of Counter Strike. Did you catch much of it yesterday?
I
I'm putting
watched
you on the spot here.
I watched Train and Mirage, but I was on Faceit Premium grind as well. So
That's where I would have been as well if I probably wasn't working. But I think okay. So Train,
Look-
you watched the crazy match,
Yeah.
and you watched the stomp at the end there. Did you? Were you surprised to see it as close as it was on a map like Train? You expecting that kind of stuff, the back and forth, the overtimes, like to go all 5 maps?
Yeah, I mean they're both really good and close, so I would say that it's usual that they will play so close, but it was pretty crazy that the heroic stumped them so much on Mirage, and pretty like it's actually funny. One thing I thought about was that this Mirage game was so boring because it was so one-sided, but just because of the final play, it just saved everything.
Yeah.
And it was just like I was so bored, and then I saw this play, and you guys like did it perfect, you and the machine, and
We
I
got
was
very
just like,
lucky.
yeah, it was pretty sick.
Okay, so I think here, Striker, you look at that grand final. Most of the ones we have best of 5s normally don't deliver. Do you think this one did?
For sure. Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Is it coming down to what MSL is saying because of the clutch in the end, or do you think the series as a whole delivered?
No, I think the series was really good. Obviously, like a lot of it came down to Gambit dropping some pretty big leads. I think Heroic should not have been able to get to the fifth map even. It should have been over before that. But obviously, like credit to them, they managed to pull off the comebacks, right? Yeah, I mean in general, it 100% delivered. I think the fifth map was just down to. It definitely looked like Gambit kind of ran out of gas by that point.
Yeah.
Like when they started going down, you could tell that they were just like pushing one by one in a lot of the rounds, like for no apparent reason and stuff like that. Things that they would never do if they were like at 100%. So I think that was like really down to the final going to like 7+ hours and just being super tiring.
Now, Prof, I don't want to start the best of 5 conversation again, because that's another horse that we could beat to death.
No,
but
of course.
What do you have to take away from that final?
Like my overall, not even just the final, but overall with Heroic, it's weird to see a team that doesn't really have a superstar, not even a superstar. Like it's hard to even know who their star player is. Like it's not a very single player center team. Like even you look at this grand final, it's like Cadian is the only guy that has a positive rating. Of course, there were a couple of stomps, so that kind of is weird on the ratings. But still, you look at through the whole tournament, you would expect maybe Stalin to be the main man, but he kind of shows up on some games and some doesn't. Then Refresh is there, then Susha has a good game. It's kind of weird how balanced they are, and it's very unorthodox, I feel, to have a team that is consistent on this level and to not really have like key star player that has to perform almost every game, right? I don't know how you look at that.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying there, because I think you just reflect on the stats. Like Stown had a good first map and a good fifth map, right? Well, it's a good map for him to show up there on Mirage, but like on Train, for example, they ended up winning the map, but he was one of the players getting bullied, and he's one of the guys we expect to kind of step up in a big way. MSL, when I guess using Prof's kind of sentiment there with the team not really having a star, is that the way that you view Heroic? Do you think they are making that work? Do you think that's just virtue of them being together for such a short period of time, or is that like a viable strategy to have just this team that everybody can function and everybody can have a good game?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of like Astralis. I think all 5 players can carry and show up, but I would say like Cadian have really impressed me the last many months, and I think Stown is very underrated. Like I'm pretty sure that he is doing a lot of second round calling and helping, from what I heard from Nico, and Nico have praised him a lot. So I think really he's underrated, and maybe he also took some roles now. I'm not completely sure, but what Nico said, he took some roles like a bit harder. So I think that he is like, for me, he is like, him and karrigan is like the really important, but it's like they are all important. But I would say like if you should name some.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that they were doing a lot of like double AWPs on the CT side. Every single map, double AWPs was like a thing that they were pulling on out. Something that Stown, when he could get it in his hands, was using it for sure. And they were finding that to great success against a team like Gambit, which usually get their way with a lot of map control, right? There's teams who have always tried, taking it back and like forcing fights, and they just seem to struggle. Like, these double AWPs on certain maps, I think Inferno in some of the later stages, Train when they were both hitting shots, it made it really hard, right? In terms of that game, I think you could see when Gambit could started to have trouble in certain areas, and there was puzzles that they weren't so used to solving. But I agree with that sentiment that you had, Striker, that by the last map they looked tired and Heroic looked fired up. Like they were still
100%.
they were still fucking feeling it. And I think that's almost the difference of these two teams. I don't think that Heroic are like a momentum-based team, but I think the way when karrigan gets going, everybody
I think
gets
they
going.
are.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, just I think Train was the biggest example of that. I think
Okay.
when they went into the chaos mode and started just like, karrigan went for like a
Dropping down pop with the AWP fucking every second
exactly.
round.
Like
Yeah.
karrigan went for a lot of these plays, and a lot of time even like, so, I don't know if he told them to do it or if the other players just took it upon themselves to do that. Like when he didn't do it and somebody else did it, like whenever they were on overtime and like one of the tier rounds, like 2 out of the 3 tier rounds, somebody did something crazy. And I think Gambit had like, after a relatively normal regulation, I think Gambit had a lot of problems dealing with that, and that's why Heroic ended up actually winning that that 4th overtime. So I feel like they are a bit of a momentum-based team in that aspect.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. From that game, because the takeaways in the first half of Inferno, the entire map of Vertigo, and then the first half of Train, it just felt like Heroic were a bit scared. Like they weren't taking the fights that they normally would, or they didn't have the confidence to take the fights, because every time they'd limp on out, it was just like they were just getting beat, and they weren't winning a lot of fights. So I was a little bit worried about their confidence. And then that's why I thought they started playing a bit more like you were saying, especially when they get to overtime, right? Once they get to that stage of the game, they know that they can do it. Like they're not being bitches anymore. It's like, well, we just fucking made the comeback. Like, let's go. And then it felt like a lot more biffy and brawly, like you were saying, once we got into the overtime. So I don't know if that was virtue of the overtime or virtue of them identifying that they need to play more aggressively. But either way, it did make things harder for Gambit. And that maybe is one of the things, because we've started to see teams not find out VP, but like be able to stall VP out with these really late takes now, right? Everybody just explodes. There's so many fights. They can't win them all. There's no chance to get the bomb down. And then the round ends with Time and James fucking trying to save the AWP, right? Or Sanji's doing his best to find it. I think that these teams now, people are working out ways to have the solution with the slower plays or the style that they're going for.
I have to say on the Train, there was also like one thing that I noticed late was how well Heroic just conserved their utility. Like the last overtime, literally they won it because of that. That was the only thing that won them the game, that they actually kept like 3 Molotovs until 30 seconds into the round. Gambit wanted to execute B twice in a row, and they couldn't just because there were 2 Molotovs coming in, and they were left with so little time that it was just impossible to win at that point. So I think like there's definitely some things that Heroic just understood by the time overtime came in, and that they utilized really well.
All right. Well, do we have anything else we want to dive into with this grand final? Because I think we have other juicier topics to talk about here before we close this down.
Not is there anything? I mean, congrats to Gambit. They're #1 in the world now.
That's pretty nice.
Winning Katowice, right, and finishing second here, and Heroic are now #3. So yeah, overall, we had that talk about like CIS teams a couple of episodes ago, and we were like,
I said Gambit.
You said Gambit, but we
Yeah.
weren't talking about being like #1 in CIS. We were talking like
Right.
2nd to 4th. And we were like, oh, Navi is obviously #1. So we're all dumb, obviously.
Happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to do. I don't want to dig into talking about Astralis and the Furious stuff right now, because we can do that when we're talking with the Blast Showdown. So is everyone cool if we just move it over there?
Yeah.
And we can
let's go.
blend it all together. Okay. So the Counter-Strike ended yesterday. Today we have a day off, and the Counter-Strike starts again tomorrow. Now, this right here, Lucas, I'm going to link it to you on Discord again. Bring the bracket up for everybody. We have the Showdown of Blast Premier Spring. Now, the teams who qualified through the first 2 slots of the GSL groups that they were doing are not the usual suspects, right? And this is why we find ourselves with Astralis. We've got fucking other big names like Liquid here. We got G2 in this bracket. There's a lot of names that are like Vitality is another one who we would have mainly been expected to go straight through to the finals. Now they're having to qualify in what is a single elimination bracket, best of 3. And one of the other little details here that we should talk about, let me just change that bad boy over, is the fact that OG changing that player, roster change late, have found themselves as the lowest seeded team, which has actually seen them matched up against Astralis. Now let's talk about that first. Prof, do you think that that's more of a punishment for OG or Astralis?
I mean, more of punishment for OG. They'll probably be playing someone like, who'd they be playing?
OG would have been middle of the pack. They
Someone
would have been
middle of
playing
the pack,
someone
yeah.
like
Who knows who they play? If they're playing like Spirit, I'd say at this point it's probably better to play Astralis than
Yep.
Spirit.
I'd agree.
So, but it's definitely a punishment for Astralis because they were playing Nasser.
NAVI.
Was it Nazi?
One of them actually. Yeah, but it might have been Nasser.
Yeah, something like that. Because Gambit's second seed, so that would be
Yeah.
probably the team. So it's definitely a punishment, a bigger punishment for Astralis than for OG. I don't like the rule. I don't think these things really. It's not one sided, right? It affects other teams and affects the whole bracket, which is kind of more stacked on the upper side now. So
Now,
I think it would work with a tournament that isn't like doesn't
Single
have all
elim.
these like regional qualifiers, just because
okay.
like the disparity between these teams is insane. Like look at the top side, like there's Gambit, Astralis, Heroic, Liquid, and the bottom side is Nasser, 9Z. You know,
Yeah.
like those are teams that are literally irrelevant internationally.
Yeah.
So it's like to put OG essentially as a worse team than Nasser on paper is just unrealistic. All right, completely.
Sure. Well, I don't want to be those guys. So let's be the guys that offer a solution. What do we think would have been a better punishment in a situation like this? Financially fined? They are one of the partner teams, right? Like,
I mean, there shouldn't be any sort of financial punishment or anything like that. They should
like, why are there even? What's the point of the deadline anyway? Like the deadline is the point to like submit a roster, so we know where we rank the team or whatever. So you don't really like replace like NBK and Isa with me and Striker or something. So it's not a shit team, but that doesn't really happen in real life. So it's kind of a pointless rule, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, just like tank them for a couple of like seedings or something, but not just place them like dead last, especially not in the tournament like this, like I said.
Okay.
It's probably also why RBK is playing for Vitality, right? So it's not really like it would be better to see them with the new guy rather than take something off.
Right.
Yeah.
But about the bracket, I think like even Astralis have the OG in the first game, I would still take Astralis spot rather than Gambit. Like Gambit need to. There's Furia and Heroic and yeah.
Or Vitality,
just Gambit, Heroic, Furia in one bracket is. That one is rough.
Yeah,
one going through out of them.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because of the nature of these teams not qualifying through the this right here, the Showdown is what we would have called a last chance qualifier, right? Like that's what we would have called this back in the day. It would have been a last chance qualifier. This is where like teams have their last crack, and because they didn't saddle up in what already is an exclusive club and qualify where they should, they put themselves in this, which is much better from us from a viewer standpoint because we get a juicier looking bracket and what could be a juicier looking matches. But in terms of what you're hoping as one of these teams, you're hoping to get through as quick as you can, so you don't have to play this type of stuff, right? Now, let's talk about the question we're posing here is who needs to qualify the most, right? And as MSL just outlined, only 2 teams out of all 16 that you see right now are going to make it. Who's leaping off the page here for you, MSL? Who has to qualify?
That one is hard. There's so many good teams. It's actually crazy to look at.
Who has to qualify as in who we think
will suffer the most, right?
Who needs it the most?
Like which team is going to suffer here and might have a roster change if they don't do well? Like, is there anybody here who like they need that to kind of keep their ship sailing in the direction they were hoping?
I'm gonna throw one out there. I think given their route, I'm gonna say Astralis.
Okay. They have a lot of hard
It's
teams
the
to get
easy
through.
answer, but never do it. Don't do it. But yeah,
I don't think Gambit don't need to win. Like if Gambit don't go through, then whatever, right? Like it's not the end of the. Like it's not like we're immediately gonna go, oh yeah, they fluke. They just made Pro League finals and IM Katowice, right?
I didn't. By the way, just to explain my thinking there, I didn't mean that they had the hardest route or anything. Quite the opposite, actually. Like they have a team. Obviously, OG is kind of a punishment, as we said. Like they would have met like a much worse team if it wasn't this case. So. Obviously, that one's a bit rough, but still, it is a team that just went through like a couple of changes. Then it's a G2 who's still kind of struggling. then it's a possibly like a Liquid. Obviously, Spirit is an option there
or
as well.
Spirit.
But if it's Liquid, like that's a really good matchup for you. So it's like it's kind of a like as hard as this bracket is, it's kind of a dream scenario for Astralis almost.
For me, it almost comes down to the rounds, like not the amount of rounds played, but the matchups as they are. For example, if Vitality, Heroic, Furia, Gambit, Spirit, Liquid, G2, or Astralis go out in the first round, then that's a problem, right? Like it won't change the outcome, like if they don't make it through the bracket at the end, but it's still a problem. Like I think from the people looking from the outside in, right? Thinking,
Yeah, I think Spirit needs to qualify the most out of these teams, out of the top half at least, because they were they weren't in Pro League. I don't even know how or why in the end they didn't get a spot, but they didn't get a spot.
I think they missed out by like because of seeding or something, like because of the seeding cutoff that was happening.
I think that on ESL they were ranked a bit lower than on HLTV, so that kind of caused them to miss out. But anyway, unfortunate for them, they weren't in action at least top tournaments for a month and 5 weeks, I think, EPL. So I think they need to qualify for a big event to like keep in that and have a good result here. Even though they're in DreamHack that comes next, I think this would be pretty big for them to stay relevant and say, okay, we're still like a top 5 contender team, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, just because of how like where we thought Spirit were after we saw Katowice, right? Just because it was such a big thing that they made it so far. And people have kind of forgotten about it just because it's been a month since that happened, right?
Yeah. Is there teams here that we feel like have an easy, like not an easy out, but if they don't make it because of the roster changes, it's like all right. Like MSL, if Vitality don't make it, knowing that RPK is not going to be there in a week's time, like we don't really care, do we?
No, not really. But I actually think like when there's so many, like if you see Astralis, G2, Liquid is all teams that have been struggling, like not making grand finals or whatever. So, but in the end, there's so many great teams that it's just crazy. Like I don't think that anyone should make roster change because of this one.
Considering Astralis's run, do we expect any changes or something happening before this, maybe potentially
before the match?
Yeah, or after Showdown?
I don't think so. I have a feeling
in my gut. No, actually, I don't know.
With Astralis,
I mean, if they let's say if they can assign a lineup that has more than 5 players, and they have Boopski,
that's
so
true.
they 99.9999% up sent him in originally. So that's
okay. I see what you're saying.
Actually, I forgot this was Blast. They can actually do that easily. Yeah.
I think at this stage, why not? Unless they really have a issue with Bubsky. Like I know that it's meant to be Zonic, calling the shots, but I think if the players don't get it along with Bubsky, then it's enough reason for Zonic not to put him in. I don't know. I'm obviously speculating here, but he hasn't been played in a long time. So, but at this point for Astralis, maybe it needs to happen because that train loss is another. They've had 2 really, I know we know it's online, but they've had 2 really bad losses in the last 6 months, like really bad losses, right? The Spirit almost 16-0. 2 months. I'm saying 6 months. I'm fucking extending it. And that there is a team who I just looking at the way that Glaive conducts himself, I don't think he'd be too happy to carry along in that way, right? So probably want to mix things up to try and get back on top. But I said to you guys before we started the show, I have a feeling like no one's told me anything. Like I thought this a while ago, and I should have fucking said it, but I didn't. I think before, and I made a tweet about it, I think before the end of the year, if not sooner, Esatag, and I didn't think that Cloud9 were going to disintegrate like they did either. I just thought they were going to buy him back or get him back at some point. And this is literally just this is how stupid I am. My brain has made me think that he's going to go back onto that team because him and Dupree go to the gym together occasionally, and I see it on Instagram. but
well,
no, seriously.
I'm also spending a lot of time with Valde, but I'm not an OG.
Look, I get it. Everyone's from the same place. You can be friends, but
I agree that there is a chance of it, and I also think like if Astralis should do something, I think like you can experiment and also do stuff online. But I would say it would be just get the 5 back when it's lane, please.
Okay.
I had a interview with Device today. One of the things also that I did, and he did mention. I asked about Esatag, especially because the last time that we talked, the Cloud9 thing was just happening, and he said like it was pretty funny to read that quote. Like obviously he would accept the move. It's a great move, a lot of monetary thing and a lot of stability. So that part was pretty funny because 6 months later he doesn't have a team.
Sure.
But I just asked him, is there a chance? And he said that Esatag actually activates Dupree a lot and allows Dupree to be a top 5 player. So there maybe is something to that like Esatag Dupree combination that you're talking about. He didn't say that they were going to sign him or anything like that. Obviously, that's like delegating it to Zonic and classic PR stuff that Apex did as well.
Didn't Zonic say when the change happened that it wasn't up to him?
Yeah.
So that is the org selling the player because they can make some money. If they wanted, like, if Zonic thinks he's good for the team and the team gets, like, I'm speculating crazy here, the team gets along better or they have a better vibe or whatever, right? Like, then I don't see why they couldn't go back to that. Are the players at Cloud9 still under contract? Do they have to be bought out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So that won't be cheap.
That's not going to be forever, right? Like these players don't stay contracted for more than 3 months.
I don't know. I got no idea.
It's actually different. Like some players have like that it's working all the way, and some have 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
Since they've been benched. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So there's probably
yeah. It's hard to say with how much money there was involved, especially by like certain players in Cloud9. Obviously, Esatag being one of them, just because his buyout was big, and then his or at least that's what we assume. I don't think it was ever actually public, and his salary is obviously massive. So God knows how that particular thing works. But some of these are probably going to be relatively hard to get out.
Imagine Cloud9 like releasing him, and he goes back to Astralis for free.
For free.
After that time. Like
that'll be funny. Yeah.
Catching.
Yeah. Well, that could happen. Like, let's be honest, it could happen. Like, I don't know any like I have no idea what these contracts look like. It's maybe.
But it would be crazy if Cloud9 just release him after spending so much money.
Like, the thing is, like, who's gonna buy him out? Like, he didn't prove to be like a superstar player. Obviously, doesn't. It's hard to justify such a investment for like a support 5th, 4th player in a team, right? I don't know who's
especially if you're Astralis, who are clearly not trying to.
I mean, Astralis is not gonna spend a lot of money on them for sure. But let's say someone else is. I think that's what Cloud9 is gonna be hoping right now for I don't know, a FaZe or a Mousesports or whatever to pick him up. Mousesports not gonna pay either. So FaZe just.
I mean, it depends on the players, right? Like, you're probably not going to look at a big buyout for like a Floppy or a Zeppa, but like if you're looking at Alex, for example, like that's obviously a really big commodity. Esatag, I guess not so much, just because of what you were saying in terms of his role and him not being quite as proven, I guess. But
and keeping him contracted for long, as you said, he has a big salary, so that's also something you don't really want. That's kind of that.
I'm sure there's like some clauses that like
when you're on the bench,
lower salary on a bench.
It's not
going
to be the full one, but even if it's half, it's a lot.
If it's half, it's still. But what like most of the top 20 is getting
like
now.
4 floppies on the bench.
All right. Well, maybe we put a pin in the Astralis discussion and just reflect back on this bracket. Now, as we go down this list, we've already mentioned that Astralis, like G2, Liquid, Spirit, Gambit, I think Fury, Heroic, Vitality, they're all the big boys in this one, right? But is there a name outside of those that we think can go for a deep run? Like, Dignitas have been showing some good results recently. Does anybody think that they're a team who's going to be able to go for a deep run in this one?
They're not going to beat Liquid, so let's stop there, I think.
Okay. What about your boy Stadodo over there at Saw Prof? Do we think they have... I know Heroic just won EPL, but like...
No way.
Okay, so there's nobody here with Dark Horse potential?
I honestly, like...
Things like the disparity is so big that it's fucking difficult, man. Like the difference between like Gambits to OG and the rest is just like night and day.
Yeah.
I think the only one who can like not win, but I think they can annoy, for example, G2 as endpoint.
Okay.
I think
I like that.
they can be an annoying team to play against.
Okay, so that's with Thomas back in here instead of flameZ, right? So they obviously have experience together. Yeah.
Let's maybe hope for extra salt to do something. I don't really
if they win a map.
I don't expect them to like beat Spirit, definitely. But if they beat Spirit, imagine that world that we would be living in. And then they play against Liquid
and they
domestic,
win that.
Then they can win that easily. Then endpoint in the final. Or something. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really see it. But let's see if they have have something.
Yeah, this is looking all very clear cut. All right. Well, I feel that might be end of this. Do we have anything we want to talk about with any of these names? Anything that's excited us? Like, I guess Furia we could talk about a little bit now. Like the way they dipped off. Do we think that, there was anything to that? I guess not. Fuck it.
I mean, they just got kind of wrecked by Heroic, right? So it's
Yeah.
not like I think they were doing pretty fine up until that point. So I wouldn't look too much into that. I think they're just going to have a really decent chance even against when they meet Gambit. So
Well, the Dust 2 was the biggest part of that series, right? The fact that we saw
that was like the 10-1 half, right?
Yeah, but it's just because that's the permaban of Furia, right? And obviously
Right.
they floated it. They didn't think Heroic would punish, and Heroic went for the punish, and the game was just puggy and scrappy. Like
The
it
worst thing,
wasn't-
like as you were saying on the stream, like Furia should be a good Dust 2 team when you
Yeah.
think about it. I don't.
I'm
All right.
I'm very sorry, guys.
You don't need to apologize. Just tell them what went wrong.
I have no idea what went wrong. Everything just started not working, and then I had to restart it all.
But now this means more work for you, right? You're gonna have to like splice the VODs
Yeah.
together, and it's gonna be longer uploading, and it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's your punishment for not having OBS working correctly.
Fired.
All right. We're just gonna go with Playtime. Did you play the bumper, Lucas?
Yes. I
Okay,
did.
so we're good. We're in here now. We just leave our conversation where we had it. We've covered it off. It's already 10 o'clock at night. We got some final bits of bobs to get through before we can close down tonight's show. Now, did they prep you, MSL, about this parry match matchmaker game that we have going?
No.
Okay,
I
well, this
didn't
is
get
going to
any.
be fun. This is going to be fun. Lucas, give MSL the link required and show us the one that we can check as well, so that we can be watching at home. But basically, the concept of this, the link that Lucas has just put in there, MSL, we're looking at maps this time round. And you need to pick the definition, or not the definition, I guess the
Description, I guess.
Yeah, the description, what fits it the best. So you just need to, like for Mirage, what one of those fits best. I'll read this out for everybody in our audio-only listeners. We have Mirage, Overpass, Train, Inferno, and Vertigo. Those are the 5 options. And these are the descriptions. Needs change, please remove. Boring to play, boring to watch, and the ideal map. So
I like how. Okay, you're lagging for a second. I like how Prof just didn't include Dust 2 in this, a map that North famously didn't play for a very long time.
But also one of MSL's best maps.
That's true.
Historically, obviously, some great performances there. I only can put 5 in, so I didn't know what to do, and I didn't
like
want
this
to.
5.
I think there is a lot. of,
Should
like-
I just go now? Or what?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
talk
pick-
us through what your justifications as well.
Mirage, I would say please remove.
Nice.
I'm kind of obviously it was also our ban at the end, but historically I have actually my teams have been very good on Mirage, but I just find it very boring at this point. You have played it so much. It's so puggy. I feel like it's just like, yeah, it's
Overplayed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not for me.
What map do you want to see put in? Maybe Cash? I didn't know you
No,
loved that one.
no. Just keep cats out of there. I would say
We just had Tuscan playing
Cobble.
in a show match.
Let's
Cobble?
get Cobble back.
The old Cobble?
Then
or-
my
You
stock,
liked Cobble,
my,
right? You
my
were
stock
pretty good
will
on Cobble.
rise if it's Cobble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cobble was a lot of fun.
It was always Mirage or Cobble back then.
The Tuscan looked actually pretty fun. Looked like it had some potential.
I like Tuscan.
Yeah, that one didn't seem like they opened up the skyboxes, so that one seemed all right.
Did also feel like a Valorant map in some ways.
Yeah,
like some
it
like
was
looks
just
like it for
lacking
sure.
a few textures, probably
Yeah.
assisted with that. It's not completely finished.
I missed the orange color. Like
Yeah, it wasn't the
it
iconic.
made it like yeah, it made it somehow nice and warm.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, all right. What
When
about
we have enough sandy maps in the map pool, I think it's okay.
Mirage? Just to... What about Overpass? Where are you putting that one?
I would say ideal map. I like the map a
Okay.
lot. You can, yeah, there's a lot about map control. I feel like there's also good mid-round calls to make, and yeah, I always enjoyed the map a lot. I think it's pretty different from other maps as well.
What do you say about people that are saying it like it's too big, that it's kind of, because of it, it's kind of random? For the T side, it's hard to get the map control because one CT pushing can like fuck everything up and stuff like that.
I think you can make your map control so good that your T side will be good. Like I always had really strong T sides on the map, and yeah, I enjoyed a lot the way you take B together as a team with flashes and so on. And yeah, there's just a lot of details where you can make yourself good, I feel like.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I love overpass, just to make clear.
Yeah. What about train? That one there, I know a lot of people aren't a huge fan of.
I like the map. It's yeah. I don't know if I have so much to say. I think the reason why I like the map is because in the end I found out how to play CT. Like you basically as CT, I feel like now you need to be, all four outside need to be so well rehearsed together on what to do and so on, that the small details and that I find very fun, and yeah, in that way I like it. But in other ways I feel like, for example, mid-round calls is not so suitable. I feel like obviously when you are 4-on-4, just walk out heaven, yes, but it's like, yeah, I feel like good and bad.
Okay. All right.
I guess it's a bit too tactical for like mid runs.
That one works. You can give multiple. You can use the same description for multiple of these things. What about Inferno? This one here is another one that I'm sure that you're a big fan of.
Actually, not so much anymore, but
Okay.
I feel like Astralis kind of ruined Inferno because everyone is just so good with utility. And yeah, before it was so fun as CT to take banana, but now I feel like it's a pain in the ass. Like,
Okay.
but there's still some things that I like in about it, and I don't know. Probably I would. Yeah, I don't know what I would do. Maybe need a bit of change. I just don't know what I would change.
All right.
Yeah.
And Vertigo. This is the most controversial, I think.
Vertigo, ideal map. Done. It's the perfect map.
Yeah.
It's like I know that it's fucking boring to watch, but I like it so much because when you get just the fight about A control is very interesting, I feel like, and because you can do so many different things, and then when you have A control, you can make so many different tactics. Like it was also one of the maps in North, like even when we met teams like that were better than us individually, I felt like I could win the game by calling the right tactic at the right time.
Okay.
And also just by having good executes. And for example, we won against G2 like 2 times on it with our coach and with Christo. So it was like,
That's right. I remember that game.
yeah, I like that map a lot because of that, but I understand why people think it's boring to watch.
Are they similar reasons as to why you liked Cobble? Like, because you like a lot of executes and stuff. You could almost win the round with the call.
Yeah, and because like you can do fast stuff, kind of like you can switch so much up. If you
I love the variations.
Yeah, and on Cobble I also like that you could go fast B, you could go fast up, you could go fast A, so you could always make people guess. And I always felt like I had a very good touch in making, like thinking where people were thinking we were going. So
Sure.
I would like make the right call.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Well, that ends the parry matchmaker segment. Now we've got the viewer questions and anything left over to talk about. Now I was just taking a quick look at the questions we had, and I wouldn't mind diving into just the first one on the list, which literally just says best of 5. Well, no, literally it says best of 5 too long. So that's not really a question.
Wow.
But what do you make of best of 5s, MSL? Do you think it's too long? Do you think that the grand final should just be best of 3s?
Yeah, I would say so, but I don't really mind it too much. I haven't dwelled too much into it. I feel like if the thing about fatigue, like I remember a lot of playoffs where we had to play the semifinal and the final on the same day, so it was like 2 best of 3s anyway. So in that, like I always felt like you could stay focused because you wanted to win so much. So in that way, I don't think it's an excuse. It's more like that for a viewer. I feel like it can be a long time, and best of 3 is maybe. It's also hard because best of 3 is only exciting if it goes to 3 maps. I feel like, and
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think it's one of these situations where it will be torn until the end of time because there's good reasons for, there's good reasons against. I like the question. There's a question here that says, "Is MSL comfortable AWPing and in-game leading? Would we prefer to rifle in the future?" We covered that one. You said you're willing to do whatever for the team, but I like this next one here, and this is getting your opinion on the best Danish 5-man lineup you can name right now and the current form of players. So you could rip any team apart in your fictitious roster. But what is the best Danish 5-man lineup right now in your mind? I know there's a lot of players to think about, but does anyone stick out?
I would take Device for sure.
Okay.
I would still take Glaive, like just because
Sure.
I think he's a really good in-game leader. And then I would probably take Stown.
All right.
It also, like, if you need to think about roles, I will not think about roles on this one. Then I will just say Glaive, Device, Stown, Velde.
Okay.
And
there's so many good Danish players. I'm thinking like Nico, Config.
And then then we will take Dupree as entry, I think.
Okay.
All right. Keeping 3 of the core. All right. Yeah. Is a lot of that in the experience of those players, or like what they've achieved, or is a lot of it like still currently right now that's what you'd pick as like the best of the bunch?
I would say that I took both of like what they're doing now, but also the past. I would say I
Both
just
into
think like
consideration.
if you take like outside of Astralis, I think Stown and Velde is probably the players that I would take.
Okay, that's interesting. Like I think there's so many good Danish players around now. Well, there's always been a lot of good Danish players, but a lot with that notoriety here, there, and everywhere. Obviously, Blame and Config, we're in Complexity. There's plenty of other names here that, like when you mentioned Valdo as one. It's crazy how many like this. As a Dane, I probably shouldn't say this to you, but it's the truth. Denmark is the new Sweden of Counter-Strike. Like Sweden used to be the one getting all the attention, right? Especially that the 1.6 days and all that kind of shit. Now it's all Denmark, right? Like Sweden can't fucking touch you guys anymore. It's not even a conversation like which nation is the best, right? We could say CIS as a region, but I think like Denmark for sure like has the rest of the world covered every day of the week. Now, let's stay with kind of, picking those teams. And we have a question here about your prime 6. Now, that's one of the things that they do on, it's one of these ESL content pieces they have where basically you pick your 5-man roster. There's a star player, AWPer, support player, in-game leader, entry fragger, and coach, and what their prime year was, like when they were in their best form. So like, let's say you said, Device from 2018, for example. Would you have one of those off the top of your head without having to think too much?
Yeah, but I probably wouldn't think like with years it would be hard, but I would say like Device for sure. What year was they so dominant?
2018.
18.
Yeah.
Okay. So Device 2018, then I would pick Glaive as in-game leader.
Same year, I assume.
Yeah. That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I could also just pick all Astralis from that year, but then let's just spice it up a bit. Like I would probably pick Astralis from that year, but
That's
I
boring.
would say Config from
2016.
I don't know if it was 16 or 17, but
The
when
Epicenter.
I think.
but I think he was going crazy at that time. Like he could just do whatever the fuck he wanted, and
he was a beast.
Yeah, he had insane aim. One of the best I've seen probably. What I picked 3 guys then.
Yeah, so I assume you put Device in the AWPer role. You have Glaive as in-game leader. I config entry.
Yeah.
So then you got support, and they also have a star player. That's kind of where a lot of people will put in like Zywu, Simple, those kind of guys.
Support, I would probably take Velde. I think he can fit any role. Honestly, you can put him in any CT role and he will deliver. That is like, I feel like he has kind of the same things as Subnix, that he can perform in anything. And I think Subnix is the same thing, like at least when we're on lane. Not right now, but I think Velde is very, very good. And it's the player that I trusted the most. So I would say
all Danish as well here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was all Danish.
No, you can pick any.
Okay. Yeah, then okay. Then we're just screwed. Let's just keep it Danish.
Keep it Danish now. Language plus.
What was the
communication plus.
last? It was Star Roll.
Player.
Yeah, star player.
Okay, then let's take Syvo as last.
Okay, there you go.
We switch it up a bit.
Well, that's the thing, right? You got Zyro on your team. He can go do his own thing. Everyone else can get it fucking done.
Duolingo Danish. It's gonna be awesome. He's gonna learn in no time.
All right. Boys, we got any other questions here for MSL before we round this one out tonight?
No, I think we kind of finished it off.
Okay, perfect. Now,
Striker was quiet for like the last 15 minutes.
Is he get live?
Yeah, so do you want to say anything?
Not really.
All right. Well, that's cool. That's all good. Now, MSL, I know that you don't have a team right now, and you know you've also talked through all of that at the start. So like, there's no sponsors or anything you have to thank and do all that kind of shit. But is there anything you want to say? Like, is there anybody out there who's been fucking you up in pugs and you want to call them out or some shit?
Not really.
Okay. No. All right. Easy. Cruising.
Follow him on Twitch. MSL
yes.
CSGO.
Yeah. I did save that before. Where is it? Oh, I didn't. There we go. Cross spamming the link. Go watch him on the ELO grind. Maybe I'll be playing a bunch more pugs now. I don't have to work for about 20 days. So maybe I'll see you in the battlefield. Yeah. You can fucking destroy me. But yeah, follow MSL. Go watch his streams when he's on. We'll keep our fingers on the pulse of where you end up with in-game leading. And thank you for joining us on tonight's show. This has been episode 35. Yes. Yep. And thanks again to Parry Match and to Xtrfy for supporting and sponsoring the show, making this all possible. We're going to be back. Is it next Monday?
Yes.
Next Monday, same time, same place, all the same stuff. We'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Fist bumps go to the teammates.
I wanna see you rolling fast. Win the round. Win the game.
Parry Match, your esports teammate.